All right, everybody. So we're starting off with 2023 with season 4, episode 1. I'm here with a very special lady, Donna. Donna, hello. Thank you for
Hello.
coming.
Thank you for doing this and inviting me. Appreciate it.
Of course. I'm glad that you are here. I just noticed that your volume is a little low.
Okay.
So let's crank this up a little bit.
Okay.
And try talking.
Is that better?
Try again.
Is that better?
Yep, that is better. All right.
Okay.
We're trying to keep this as human as possible over coffee, and we're just talking about a very important topic. So as you guys heard in the intro, be patient with this episode. It's not an easy one, and this is our first episode that will have such an impact on our community. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. We're going to have some fun in the beginning talking about the close relationship with my parents and how and how our families kind of know each other and work together, and there's a lot of stories that come along with that.
How you found me, how I found you.
Yes. So really quick, before we kind of jump into this, on every episode, obviously, we have a contract with the Poyer Group and Real Estate Margo. So the Poyer Group is founded by Mark Poyer, who's a San Francisco fire paramedic. He is a realtor in the Northern California Bay Area. So same thing as Real Estate Margo. We just signed a contract with her in December. And she's in the Las Vegas area. So if you're a first responder veteran and you're looking to buy or sell a home, you can go to either of them, mention the Overwatch Collective. They will take care of you. They know us very well. They will promise they will take care of you. And if they don't, let us know and we'll talk to them. We'll take care of it. And then they're both amazing. They support what we're doing. So they'll donate 20% of their commission to us to be able to pay for more therapy sessions, if I can talk. So yeah, the whole goal is to pay for more therapy sessions. And then we're ending 2022 with about 110 therapy sessions paid for.
Excellent.
And then today, what is today's date? Today is December 17th. Just got all the papers from a law enforcement officer who is going to be starting therapy next week. She went through
good for her.
Yeah, so she went through us, and we're going to pay for her to go to therapy, connected her to one of our therapists, and she starts next week, and she's super excited. And she didn't have to go through the department's employment assistant program and tell a fellow officer or sergeant, hey, I need to talk. So completely confidential, everything. There's 6 people that know about it and who she is and everything. So completely confidential. So we're super excited to announce that. We have another police officer using us as a resource to get some help. So
that's amazing. You guys are reaching out, doing, yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's
so needed, and you guys are filling a void.
Yeah. So that's the whole goal was to just pay for one therapy session. It's kind of when we first started, and then it was like, oh, we're getting more. We are actually creating a safe place, and then we hit 100 therapy sessions, and I was like, wow, like kind of reflecting on everything. I'm like, this is really cool. So now obviously I'm like, okay, now the next goal. Yes. We want to get therapists in each state.
You're growing fast.
So
it's going to get there.
I hope so. I really do. And I would love to do this full time, to be able to do podcasts full time and to travel from state to state and do presentations and have therapists in each state and go out and meet with the therapists and do presentations at fire departments, police departments, military units. So I'm thinking big picture, but we'll see.
Doesn't hurt.
We'll see.
That's how things get started.
Yeah. So really quick, I know I mentioned Donna here knows my parents. So Donna used to be a dispatcher.
Yes.
How long were you a dispatcher for?
Full-time and per diem, 22 years.
22 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And dispatcher is, in my opinion, the dispatcher community is kind of overlooked.
The black sheep.
Yes.
The department. Yes.
Yes. As far as the calls that are coming in, right? people are calling on some of their worst days of their entire
life. It's us first.
Yeah.
We're hearing it before anybody else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we've done a couple dispatcher episodes, and you're taking in the information.
Yes.
You're having to take notes of it really quick in the CAD system.
Yes.
And then dispatching it out to the officers. And then you don't have any say in kind of what happens with that. You're not on scene, you're just hearing. And then sometimes after the call's done, you're kind of left in the dark, like, okay, like can you just explain to me what happened, because she called me and was frantic and I need that closure.
Yes.
So do you mind just touching on how difficult it was being a dispatcher?
It was difficult. We were considered the black sheep of the department, maybe, hopefully not anymore. But no, we weren't included in things like if there was a debriefing, dispatch. I never went to one. I was never included in one. And it's like, hey, I want to raise my hand and say, hey, what about me? I heard this first. I heard the background, or I heard the call, or I heard the panic, the anxiety, whatever it was. And I would try and visualize what was going on. And, sometimes I was right, sometimes I was wrong, but I wanted to know the outcome of the call. But I also wanted to know what could I have done differently, or what was right, what was wrong, to be better the next time for my officers or for the person in need. And they just kind of looked at you and like, well, you weren't there. I wasn't necessary.
Got it.
And that was hard, but you just kind of accepted it. It's like, okay, it's not personal. They're doing this with everybody. It's not me. It's just the chain of command and the way things work.
Yeah. And I feel like you kind of got to the point where you just accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it wasn't personal. But
true.
It still was like, why am I not an integral part of what was going on?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm sure some of those times you would have benefited from being in a debrief.
I'm sure every call was a learning opportunity of how to be better, be more efficient, be whatever it was. Because what do the officers need and when, and trying to anticipate maybe so you're helping them. But if you're not told, you don't know.
Yeah. And that was, so not to date you or anything.
No.
Yeah. So when did you start? We'll see if I could do math here.
I started with my department in 1983.
Okay. So 22 years, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So 1983, 2005.
21, 22 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So early 80s. So
okay.
83.
And so nowadays, from what I'm seeing,
hopefully it's different.
What I'm seeing, yes, it is different, where when there's a debrief, the dispatchers are included. That's what I'm seeing. I know I've been on a debrief where the dispatchers have been allowed to come in, and they ask, like, hey, please reach out and ask the dispatchers if they would like to partake. And I think that's kind of being a more common theme, is having everybody involved.
It's a team.
Yes.
So involve everybody. Towards the end of when I was working, because there would be calls that involved the fire department. And sometimes the fire department wasn't even included in debrief. They had their own. And it's like, why aren't the departments debriefing with each other? Because the call involved everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then also it's beneficial in that aspect too, to hear the dispatcher's point of view, the firefighter's point of view, the coroner that showed up later. And it gives you a different perspective of how people react to the trauma and how they deal with it after, and how it affects each person. And then honestly, the more people that you get talking about it, the more help that you can provide.
Yes.
And it's essentially like what we're doing here is normalizing talking about it. Like the more people that we can get to talk, and maybe an EMT that just started sees a firefighter that's been on for a while opening up and sharing and saying, this really affected me. And then that EMT that maybe brand new is like, wow, okay, like this firefighter that's seen a lot is comfortable sharing. So now I feel more comfortable.
And it's okay for me to feel like this. You get validated. Like, I thought I was the only one that was feeling like this, but Okay, I'm hearing it from senior people that, so this is normal.
Yeah.
In our world, there's not a lot that's normal, but it's normal and it's okay to feel this way.
Yeah. And one of our therapists, her name's Donna, she's amazing. And she said, however you react to a traumatic incident is normal.
Mm-hmm.
There is no set way where no right or wrong. Donna, we're going to go to the same call together. You're going to be okay. I'm not. Like, there's none of that. So I think the more and more that we talk about it and kind of share that, it's going to resonate with more people, and hopefully it hits one more person, and then they are more comfortable about talking and sharing and getting the help.
Things need to come out of the dark, the closet, wherever it's been. Mm-hmm. It needs to come out and be out in the open, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge stigma.
Yeah. And so I was literally just going to transition to the stigma. So back in 1982, three.
Yeah. I think your dad was 82.
Was he 82? Okay. All right. That's why I'm off by 1 year. Okay. How was the stigma of mental health, of reaching out for help, of therapy? Was therapy talked about?
No, there was no discussions. There was no talk of that. And if there were any indications, I remember a couple times with different officers that I worked with, if they showed anything like that, it became the source of sometimes ridicule, sometimes just confidence level in their ability. So it was whatever you were dealing with, you dealt with outside the department, whether it was with your family or with professionals but you didn't bring it in because you kind of knew what path it was going to be down. It wasn't good.
And how terrible is that?
Awful. Awful. Because there is nothing to be ashamed of. People in law enforcement are human. We have emotions. They come out when they should. And you shouldn't be penalized for that. For being human, for having a reaction, for something affecting you. Mm-hmm. You have to have a release, and to be kind of taught, no, don't show it, don't release it. It's unnatural.
Yep. And that's and you mentioned it, it's the environment dictates how you're going to deal with what you're going through, essentially.
Yeah, it was a suck it up, buttercup, attitude.
And it's the same if our veteran community that's listening, it was kind of the same in the veteran community as well.
They come from the same place. The training is very similar. The mindset, what you have to go through to get into the military or into law enforcement, the testing you go through, everything. So, you better have that backbone.
Yeah. And specifically, and I know I mentioned this on our podcast yesterday with another LEO, is if you're in the military and you're in a position where you carry a firearm, which most of the time you are, and if you're a police officer, obviously you are carrying a firearm. If you say any major words or phrases that place you in that kind of category of being a danger to yourself, and you get placed on a psychiatric hold, then your firearms get taken from you and you essentially can't do your job.
Yeah. Saying anything, giving any indication, you're losing your profession, your livelihood. For a lot, it's their identity. I remember getting introduced to people by, hi, this is Donna. She's a dispatcher. And I'm like, how many other people get introduced with their professions? Not very many. So it becomes part of who you are, and to have that taken away, or the thought that it could be taken away, is terrifying.
Yep. And you'll do anything that you can to ensure that you're not going to get that taken away.
Exactly.
So I think that's a big thing that we're dealing with in our community still to this day, is the identity aspect. There's still the stigma out there. Unfortunately, and everything that we're trying to do here is create a safe place, reducing the stigma, normalizing everything that we see and what we go through. And yesterday on the episode again, I shared when I kind of realized that I was getting burnt out because I overreacted on a parking complaint. And one of my buddies stepped
People
in.
get vicious about their cars.
They do. It was like 7 inches over the curb, and I kind of overreacted a little bit, and then I realized it after. I'm like, okay, this is a sign of burnout. I got too much on my plate. I'm losing my mind.
And you saw it.
Yeah.
And that's huge to recognize it.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't have 2 years ago before starting talk and everything that I've learned. It's definitely helped me, but and then being able to recognize it in others. So we just got to keep getting out there in the community. But yeah, that was over a parking complaint. I was like, okay, I need to
step back.
Yeah, I need a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that it is changing. It's going in the right direction,
Yes.
but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
A lot of work, but at least it started. And that's what has to happen. It just needs to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
Yeah.
Start somewhere.
Yep. Started in a garage and we're still in a garage.
Okay, it's a really nice garage.
So I know before I mentioned that Donna worked with my dad and also knew my mom, knows my mom, also mom. Another Donna.
Yes, another Donna. Not confusing at all.
So worked together, and you knew my parents when they first met.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So explain that a little bit, just to give a little context on how long you've been essentially in my parents' lives and the community.
What are we going on 40 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Going on 40 years. Your dad was one of the first, my first shifts were working with him. Drove me nuts.
Yeah. Typical. He probably kept you busy, drove you nuts. And that's why he works so much, is because if he didn't work, he would drive my mom nuts.
Yes. And I can see that, and how your mom is still a functioning adult. I don't understand. You guys have put her through a lot. But no, I remember when they first started dating, and it was like, this may be something. And she'd come around the department and, just got to know her. And it was like, yeah, good fit. I think she understands what it means to be involved with this guy.
Yeah. And
because it takes a special person.
And to be involved with a first responder, let alone a police officer, and he was in the military.
Yeah.
So that's just adds another
I was like, is
level
there anything
to it
else you need to do to add to the load?
I know. And then I took after him. So then people tell me too, they're like, what else are you going to take on? Like, you're already doing enough. And that's exactly how he is. So he just keeps doing more and more in the military, the cop, the writing a book. He wrote a book.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a lot, but you kind of knew what she was getting into.
Yep.
Being with Bill.
Yeah, because I think Bill and I started dating, or we knew each other, but probably started dating not long after your mom and dad started dating. Okay. So, and I'd been in the job a couple of years at that point. And so, yeah, I did know what was involved, as far as, no, he's not going to be home on time, and no, this isn't happening, and no, you're going by yourself to this event.
Yes.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And was he already with California Highway Patrol at the time that you guys met?
Actually, no. He was a reserve officer with the department I was working for. He had been accepted to the Highway Patrol and had his academy date coming in like 6 months.
Okay.
So he worked as a reserve just until started. So we actually knew each other for 2 years before we started dating, and then dated for 3 after that. So
okay. All right. And so California Highway Patrol is a live-in police academy.
Yes.
So you two were dating at that time?
No.
Or this was after?
We started dating after he had graduated from the academy and
Got
gotten his assignments. So I didn't go through all of the back, him being away and coming home on weekends when he could. I didn't go. From what I understand, they have some type of, I should be more familiar with this, some type of orientation for family members, spouses, family, of what to expect, and I didn't go through that because we weren't dating at the time.
Got it.
My training was just working for my own department and being around the guys and talking with the wives and girlfriends and seeing what was happening and what wasn't happening.
Yeah. And at least you had that.
I did.
Right.
I did.
Because a lot of people will start dating a first responder, let alone a police officer.
They think, but until you're in it, you don't know.
Yeah. And then you're dealing with the challenges and doing stuff alone and missing XYZ, and date night is tonight. Nope. Sorry. I got a vehicle collision I got to go to. I'm not getting off.
We're supposed to be here. No, well, I'm not going to make, there were a lot of, I'm going by myself. I'm RSVPing by myself, or we thought this was happening and it's not. So. Yeah.
And so this was probably about 6 months ago. I actually went to Alameda County, when they were first starting a new police academy. They had the family, friends, spouses, significant others come in, and it was the recruit training officers. It was the academy coordinator. And they both basically took turns talking and sharing what the academy was going to be like, the stress that they put on them, the cleaning the boots, the studying, and kind of preparing them for what their loved one was about to experience.
Yes. And how much of it was not in their control.
Correct. Yeah. And you pretty much don't really have much control at all.
You don't have a say so that this happened, that happened.
Yeah. So I think that's really beneficial to have that. And I was honored to be able to get up for a few minutes and kind of talk about what we're doing. And I obviously I can relate. I told them I was like a police officer in the area. This is what they're going to experience, not only in the academy, but after the academy. And I was like, we're a resource. We can talk about the signs, the symptoms, how if you are recognizing that your loved one's going through a tough time, here's something that you can do. These are the podcasts that we have. So I think it'd be nice to kind of get into that a little bit more.
At it from two perspectives. You came at it from a son growing up.
Yes.
With dad not always being available or through, and then doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So you come at it from two different perspectives.
Yeah. And so Jeffrey and I had to deal not only with him being a police officer, but he deployed overseas. And he missed my graduation. He was gone for Christmases. And that's when Skype first started.
Okay.
So we would Skype with him and be like, hey, I'm in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I was kind of younger, so I didn't really know like too much of what was going on. But Jeffrey being 4 years older, he did. But yeah, so we
you don't want to resent, but there's that little part of you.
Yeah. So we had a tough time with it, but then also the spouses and significant others deal with a lot. It's a full-time job.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You know you're not a single parent, but you have to function like that because you don't know from day to day what the availability is or when something's going to happen, and you're not there.
Yeah. So how long was Bill with the Highway Patrol before you guys officially started dating?
Year and a half. Year and a half.
So you waited for him to get off probation to see if he was going to make it, and then you're like, okay.
Not even. When we first started dating, it was a fluke.
Okay. Explain. How was it a fluke?
We had known each other. We were friends.
Yep.
And I had tickets for a concert.
Okay. What concert was it?
Oh, this is going to be embarrassing.
No, go with it.
Barry Manilow.
Okay.
Concord Pavilion, 1985. Still have the ticket stub.
Do you really?
I do. Well, first date.
Oh, yeah. First date.
I had mentioned to a friend of mine that I had these tickets, and I was like, I don't know who to go with. And he goes, well, you should ask Bill. And I go, why would I ask him? He goes, because I think you'd go. I'm like, okay, why not?
Yeah.
So I called him up and I said, hey, I've got these tickets for a concert. Do you want to go? He says, yes. I said, well, you don't know who, you don't know when, you don't know where. He goes, it doesn't matter. He says, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Perfect.
And first date, dinner and a concert. And that was that.
Okay. So since he answered that so quickly, didn't even know where, didn't know the concert.
Nope.
So prior to that, you, number one, taken the big leap and asking him, right? Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. I like it.
It's better than going alone.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So
a little ballsy there.
A little ballsy. It worked out. And before then, was there any flirting? Was there any thought in your head where it's like, okay, I'm attracted to him. I could see something in Bill, or it was literally
it was like, this is a nice guy, personable when he comes by the department to visit because he's, still has friends, and just thought just a nice guy.
Okay.
Never gave it a thought. Then when my friend the coworker suggested it, was like, well, yeah, that could be fun. And then first date, and was like, oh yeah, this is good.
This is fun. This is good.
This is a good thing.
Okay. All right. And where'd you guys go to dinner? Somewhere East Bay as well?
We went to the East Bay. I couldn't tell you where at all. It was a little Mexican restaurant, hole in the wall, with great margaritas that was somewhere near the Concord Pavilion. And so it was good. Good conversation. We had a lot in common. We knew people in common even outside the department. So, and being we had known each other for a couple years, it was easy. It wasn't like a first date where you're kind of, because you get the curiosity of the department or your job.
Yes.
People get, weird.
Yeah. And I've experienced that with like first dates,
and those are the ones you want to stay away from.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a lot, and they ask these questions about your job, and you're trying to explain it, and then you're having a tough time explaining it, and it just seems like a lot of work. And so, sometimes it is easier with someone that knows, that's in the circle, but then also sometimes it could be a con if it doesn't work out, or someone does something to the other person, or does something bad, and then it affects the relationship. And then when the whole group gets together, I think, in my experience and with friends, there's kind of pros and cons to it, but obviously this was a pro. It worked out.
This was a pro. It worked out. Yep.
Good. And then, so that was a year and a half of him being with the California Highway Patrol. You guys started dating and hit it off right away.
Yep.
And then go on from there.
We dated. After about close to a year of dating, we moved in together. Continued, the relationship. We ended up buying a house together. It was like, I knew earlier on than he did, but
got it. Okay.
We eventually got there.
Okay.
Bought a house, got married, kids right away too. Yeah. Things were good.
How old were you guys when you got married?
I was 29. He was 26. Yes. I was a cradle robber.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I knew before he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, 29 and 26.
Okay.
Not kids,
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 29.
Okay.
And I could not imagine I couldn't imagine getting married right now, honestly.
And kids and the whole
right
But
now.
you have to remember, this is the 80s, so
we're
talking
And what year did you guys get married?
1988.
1988. Okay.
We got married. We had two choices. For dates. We had 10/15 or 10/22.
Got it.
And I was like, I am not getting married on 10/22.
Yeah,
it is canceled. I am not getting married on 10/22. Let's get married on 10/15. We're taking each other into custody.
Yes. I love that so much. And so that's actually something that we talked about prior to recording is you can talk in, well, that's what I said for us. Like we can talk in 10 codes.
Talk in 10 codes. Yes.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing about your significant other and the spouses of being a police officer is you kind of pick up on that and you start talking in code, or you start understanding.
Everything on our calendar to this day is military time.
Yeah.
It made perfect sense. My kids are the only ones of their groups that know military time.
Yeah.
But you can talk in shorthand, and you can say something nobody else would understand, but you get what that means, and yeah. Yeah.
And so I actually learned this at the department you used to work for and my dad used to work for was 10/20 4/87. And then like when I went to the police academy, they started talking about police codes and 10 codes and everything. And they're like, we can talk in code. Nobody else, same thing that you were just saying. Mm-hmm. They put it up on the whiteboard and they're like, what does this mean? And all these numbers in a row. It's like, location for a meeting. And they're like, how do you know that? And I was, yeah.
Because it's what I grew up with.
Yeah. So I learned that at that department. And yeah, it's so funny that you kind of pick up on that. And like, even my mom talks in 10 code to me and my brother, and Kelsey's picking up on it. And it's like, hey, I'm 97.
Yeah. It's a form of shorthand, and it works. And it's just because 8-10 hours a day, that's what you're saying. So it is a different language. You learn it and it just comes home with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So I'm trying to get a picture, building all this up for the audience, for all the listeners. So you get married, and how much longer? So you were 29, Bill was 26. You said kids right away.
Yeah. Following year.
Following year? Okay. So right away.
Right away.
You wanted kids right away?
I wanted kids right away.
Okay. And was Bill on board with that too, or?
Got there.
He got there.
I mean, the whole thing's scary. He was the youngest of 5 kids.
Okay.
And he didn't know babies. Never been around them.
Yeah.
They scared the pajamas out of
yes.
them. The whole idea, which I think is normal when you haven't been around them. But yeah. Okay. He got there. He was a great dad.
Okay.
Great dad.
Geez, youngest of 5.
Yes. 5 boys.
5. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I know some families that have 4 girls.
No. Yeah. I
know a few of those, but I don't think I know any families that are like 4 boys, 5 boys. No. Like that is a household.
5 boys.
Okay.
Yep.
And were any of them first responders as well, or?
His dad was retired PD.
Okay.
San Francisco. His uncle was also retired San Francisco PD. No one else in his family.
Okay.
But he did come from a background.
Got it. Okay.
No, the others all kind of headed off into
different directions.
Very different. Opposite.
The opposite.
Okay.
Yeah. They saw the actual 1015 side.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A few other 10 codes too. There was 5150s in there, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you had Mandy first.
No,
Daniel.
Yeah. Daniel's oldest, and then 3 years later, Mandy.
That's right. Okay.
Yes.
So
and you know her.
Yes, I do. Yep.
That's the other thing.
Yeah. Good. And how was it being a dispatcher, and then Bill being with California High Patrol and being pregnant?
There was a lot of us pregnant when I had Daniel.
Okay.
I mean, your mom was pregnant with Jeff.
Yes.
Yes. There were, I think, 8 or 9 of us between a couple different departments, wives and dispatchers. I loved being pregnant. It was great. I fortunately was lucky enough that when I had Daniel, I left as a full-time dispatcher and became a per diem dispatcher. Per diem. Okay. So I didn't have the hard routines. My parents were close by when I was working, because I prefer the graveyard shifts.
Okay.
They would take care of the kids. It was good. I kind of felt like I had the best of all the worlds. Okay. I can be a stay-at-home mom, but I can work and still be me. Yep. And, still be involved with what was going on and still have an understanding what my husband was doing.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
I like it. So how many days were you working per diem?
Oh, 1 or 2.
And you could kind of pick?
They would give you the list and say, here, what do you want? You'd sign up for as many or as few as you want. It was great.
Okay. So and then you can kind of base that off of Bill's schedule as well. And
I could look at what we were doing, what was, where am I needed kind of thing. Oh yeah, this works, that works. It was a dream. I mean, how many people get the luxury of really picking and choosing?
Yeah, I
was fortunate.
I'm sure some people out there are like, wow, she had it really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a very smooth process.
And Bill preferred, he says, I want you to be able to stay home with the kids. I don't want to have somebody else raise them. My parents were the kids' only babysitters ever growing up. So it was great. They were always surrounded by family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's what I wanted, and it's what he wanted for me. So good. No complaints about that.
And that's got to be nice to have parents close by to be able to help out, because especially you said you prefer graveyard.
Yes.
And why did you prefer graveyard? I'm curious.
Because there wasn't all the BS during the day.
Yeah, you didn't have the admin there.
You didn't. Yeah, sorry, admin. But no, you didn't have the admin. You had the legitimate stuff. It was just. And I'm a night owl to begin with. When I worked full time, I was a swing shift. dispatcher. That was just the best of both worlds. You had the daytime, and I just liked the element better. I felt like I was really doing something to help somebody working graveyard. There's nobody else out there in the middle of the night back then. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are it. I mean, you got the crazy people. I would have the guy that would call once a week wanting to know when high tide was and baseball schedules and this kind of, stupid stuff. But when there's nobody else there, you are somebody's lifeline at 3:00 in the morning.
Yes.
Because there wasn't anybody else.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point where, I mean, I'll walk into comm centers now and I'll see iPads up with Netflix, and you didn't have any of that.
No, we all did our own stuff. It was like one person was scrapbooking. I would knit, but yeah, I did. And, talk to the guy, learned how to play dominoes and things. I worked for a smaller department. Things could get quiet.
Yeah.
But without you think about, 30, 40 years ago, who are you going to call? There is nobody else that's going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Or be available or whatever.
And in that department that you worked for, there were some hot calls at night.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It was popping off a little bit.
Yes. And depending on who you were working with, won't name names, but yeah, there could be
cause some trouble
or these unexpected, I don't know, not fine things, but things would come up. But yeah, there was some stuff that would make a shift go by fast.
Yeah. I always prefer it busy. I'm sure you did too. When it was much, you're like, hey, can you go do something, please? I'm like sitting here.
Yes, because a couple hours could go by with nothing, and it was like, that's hard. I much prefer being active and busy, and I think that's what I loved about the job was you never knew what the next thing would be or when it was going to be happening.
Yep.
Every time you picked up the phone, what was it going to be? The guy calling about the tides or something really urgent?
And
I guess I like the adrenaline rush. And I like my safe side of the adrenaline rush.
And that's how I am too. And I think that's how a lot of us are, is where you kind of fiend on that adrenaline rush. And unless you're in it, there's really no way to explain it to someone.
No.
Like, and if you're a first responder, you can relate to this. Is you can be sitting there knitting, or you could be in line at Chipotle for me, because I go to Chipotle a lot.
You and my daughter.
And you could just be sitting there talking to someone and be like, okay, I have to do this now and I have to do this follow up, and then boom, 5 seconds later, some hot call comes out, and for us, it's responding lights and siren, trying to drive, trying to talk on the radio, trying to do stuff on the computer while you're driving through intersections and everything. And it's a lot. And then for you're listening through the headset, asking the pertinent questions, typing everything in, then transferring over, and then dispatching the officers and answering their questions. Like it is an adrenaline
and
rush.
When I was doing it, things weren't tied in like they are now. So we would have to dispatch officers. Then we would have to dispatch the fire department. We were contacting paramedics through county. We were notifying whoever on the different channels. So yeah, there was all of that going on simultaneously. And it didn't have to be on the emergency line. I mean, you could get somebody walking up to the front counter. You could get somebody on the business line. We had a back door, and there was a buzzer and a phone that, people would walk in, but hey, this is going on. You never knew what was coming from either.
Got it.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I like the unknown. Like I could never Monday to Friday behind a desk from 8 to 5. And I know the next day I'm going to go
and do the same thing
and plug numbers from a computer into this desktop. I would lose my mind.
I completely agree. Like I said, the adrenaline, I like, again, from my safe side of things and not your side of things. Oh, you should be a reserve officer. I'm like, no. No, I know my place. That's not where I belong.
Yeah.
But it was also the satisfaction at the end of the day, knowing, even if you hadn't heard it personally, you knew you did something that benefited somebody that day in some way. And it's nice going home at the end of the day going, okay, that was time well spent. I made a difference. I served a purpose. There was a reason for me to be where I was when I was to help this situation. It was nice. I liked it.
Yeah. And I feel the same way. And I think sometimes we kind of get, we kind of oversee that, I think, where we have a lot going on that we have to do and take care of, and we have our policy updates, we have our evidence that we need to book, and photographs, and
the reports,
supplemental reports, and follow-ups, and everything. And I think a lot of the time we go from call to call to call, and we're trying to not take a report on it sometimes.
Yes, no, I agree.
And you're trying to deal with it there, and then and you kind of oversee how many people a day that you're actually helping.
Yes.
So I think that's
you kind of have to give yourself, because you don't hear thank you a lot.
Yes.
You don't hear appreciate what you did, really grateful. So you kind of have to tell yourself that. And I think we forget to do that.
I forget to do that.
Yeah.
And
start doing that.
Yeah, I need to. And I think it's very rare that people say like, hey, thank you for what you do, or even like sometimes going in a store or going to a call for service, some people like hold the door and be like, here you go, officer, like thank you for what you do. You're like, oh, okay, boom, like I needed that, or something. So I always appreciate stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely do oversee the fact that what we're doing is helping people.
I think most first responders forget to take the moment and go, okay, that was good. And look at, I made a difference.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to pat yourself on the back every once in a while.
Yeah. And I think our community is against patting yourself on the back. No one wants to.
It's not. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so your relationship with Bill, obviously he was on for a year and a half. So he's off probation at that point.
Because their probation is much shorter.
Yes. Yeah. Off probation, kind of getting the feel for the job. I think everybody kind of says like police officers don't really figure out how to do the job sometime between 4 to 5 years. They always say that's the time frame where it's like, okay, you've been on for long enough, you've experienced a lot of these calls, now you can kind of do it on your own, because there's a lot that goes into it.
As much training as you have, you can't anticipate you can't cover everything in training. It could take you 3-4 years before you come across something.
Yep.
So yeah.
And so with that, when you and Bill started dating, what were kind of the pros of dating another first responder?
The pros were understanding that when we got home at the end of the day, if we weren't in the mood to have the conversation, we understood why. We didn't need to go into an explanation of why. Give me my 15 minutes, whatever it is. We understood that if something was really hard to deal with, that was okay. We could talk to them about it and bounce and get it out. If we came home and we really were just in a mood, we knew why. We didn't take it personally.
Got it.
So that was very helpful. Understanding the hours, and you didn't eat and you didn't get off on time. We knew why. There wasn't, a reason for an explanation. It was just part of the job.
Yeah. And
so that was a big help.
Yeah. And I think that definitely makes it easier. It's like a smooth transition into a relationship when you have someone that understands exactly like everything that you just mentioned, because it is a lot. And that's some of the challenges that our first responder community faces on a daily basis, is if the spouse or significant other doesn't fully understand what their partner goes through on a daily basis, or experiences, and the resources aren't there for the other half. That is very important. So that's why we did an episode where we had one of our therapists on, Destiny, and it was all about first responder relationships and then sex.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that one got a lot of views, a lot of comments, and a lot of people went on and they're like, hey, I really related to X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never heard this before. I thought what me and my boyfriend go through, or like it's just us that go through it, but it's nice hearing you guys talking about it.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Because you can take it personal. Yeah, you try and get that out of your system on your drive home, however long that is. Sometimes you can, but sometimes you can't. And you walk through the door and you're still holding on to whatever you're carrying from that day. And if like, how is things? And the person doesn't want to talk, it's easy to take it personally. What did I do? And then your instinct is to go after and pick at them to get them to open up. The timing's not right. Let them come to their timing on their own. But it's hard.
yeah, it is difficult. And so if you're listening and you're not aware, and then Donna, I don't think you're aware of this. One of our therapists, Destiny, she was dating a firefighter for a few years. And now she works with first responders, and she actually holds a first responder spouse and significant other group therapy.
I think it's great.
Yeah. So
I think it's excellent.
it's 11 sessions. The first session is her one-on-one with the person that's going to be joining the group to kind of do an intro. And then they do 10 therapy sessions as a group. And they do, I think they're every Tuesday, and they're starting up in January. So if you're listening to this and you're interested, and hopefully by the time that you hear this, it's not already completely filled up. And we've financially assisted spouses and significant others to attend this group, and they love it.
I think it's very important. As a spouse, you may go through these orientations when your partner is first starting in law enforcement, but where's the check-in down the road after you got some time under your belt? And I think you need to revisit that. And that's kind of sounds like what this is.
Yeah.
I think that's excellent.
Yeah. And that there is no 5-year check-in,
yeah.
10-year check-in.
And there should be.
And there should be. So I really like what she's doing with it. And I think every spouse, significant other of a first responder should go through some sort of group therapy with other spouses and significant others, because like the same thing when we did the episode about first responder relationship and sex, they were like, I learned something from you guys, or, oh, that's how she or he deals with going to events by her or himself, So
you're right. It's not just the non-first responder trying to understand what their significant other's going through, but it's the first responder knowing how their actions, words, what they're doing and saying is affecting the how it's coming off.
Yeah.
And how they're taking it. And that may not be what you mean, but this is what you're giving off. So
yeah, because I've been there several times too, and come home and exhausted and long day and don't really want to talk about it. It's like, look, like you don't understand. Like, I just need some time. And then literally I felt like I was getting grilled during that episode because it turned into like a therapy session. But I quickly learned that that's not what she needed.
Yeah.
She needed even like maybe a little bit more of an explanation, or, hey, when you get home, write something down, or some alternative ways to communicate instead of just being like, oh, you don't understand. So
yes, because that makes the person feel like you're unwilling to get me to understand. Like I'm not worth the time for you to understand. But to check in or just know what the other person is going to need. And it's hard because, if your person has been gone for hours or days or whatever. I mean, my husband got deployed down to LA for the Rodney King riots. He was gone for 5 days, kind of thing. And when they walk in the door, you got so much and you just kind of assault them with it. And we have to realize, okay, hold back. Look at what they've been through. They need some decompressing time. So for both sides, very valuable.
And we talked about that too. Is like, oh, like, are you coming home? Are you on your way? Yep, I'm on my way. And then it's, trying to have a serious conversation when I'm not ready to have a
Yeah.
serious conversation. And then we got into like, okay, are you listening to listen or listening to comprehend and have a conversation?
Or are you just pacifying me and letting me talk?
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
It's just infuriating.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I obviously with our community, the divorce rate is through the roof. It's
Yeah.
super high. I think it's like 40 to 50% of relationships. And I think that's an important place to start, is to talk about like the common themes of the relationships in our community, and being able to talk about it. And effective communication, I think, is
great term.
Thank
because
you.
you can communicate.
Yep.
And it not be worth anything.
Yeah. So and that term was not from me. That was from the therapy episode.
No,
so I'm not going to take credit for it. I'm just copying it.
That's a great term though. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was a very impactful episode. But I'm glad that you and Bill had that good relationship, and it was a pro that you were both first responders.
Yeah.
And you were able to bounce ideas off each other. And him coming home after 5 days being like, okay, I
got 2 small kids.
I
mean, my daughter was literally a newborn kind of thing. But yeah, you're so glad you're there, and you want to have, you want things to get back to normal immediately. The minute they walk in the door, you're not at work anymore. You're with your family, and you need time.
Yeah.
Sometimes more time than the drive home allows.
Yeah. And there are pros and cons to living so close to your place of employment. Sometimes people like the hour drive. Some people hate it and they're stuck in traffic, and then we have people crashing on the way home.
Yes.
Some people like the short commute.
Yes.
So,
the pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
You just weigh it all out.
And let's see. So you had Daniel first.
Yes.
And then you had Mandy how long after?
3 years.
Okay. So they're 3 years apart.
He was scared to death of her.
Really?
Well, he didn't know girls. He didn't know babies, and then he didn't know girls. He sees her. We're getting her ready to come home from the hospital, and she's all in pink and lace and everything. He goes, "What am I supposed to do with her?" Those were his words. What am I supposed to do with her? I says, "You do the same thing you did with Daniel till she's about 12, but she'll let you know when."
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, that's how it worked. That's how it went.
Okay. All right. And
she is her father's daughter.
Okay. And does Daniel take after you?
I have to say he takes after like my brother and my mom. He's much quieter, more reserved, more the observant, sit back and watch. My daughter is, she's let's leap and see what happens kind of thing. That's,
So they're opposites.
They're very opposite.
Okay.
Since the day they were born. Yes.
Okay. Oh, you could tell right away.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We had my daughter, and the nurses described her as the baby with the lungs. And when you know that nursery nurses are talking about the baby with the lungs, you've got one who's going to make her presence known, and she has ever since.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we love her for it. And we love her for it.
She is a very strong, independent woman. So
And you guys were done it too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't want to be outnumbered.
Yeah. True.
It was like,
and after hearing her lungs, you're like, no, we're done. We can't do it again.
I was lulled into a false insecurity with the first one. The second one, it's like, no, no more. It's just going to get worse from here. No, we didn't want to be outnumbered.
We love you, Mandy.
Yes, we love you, Mandy. One of each was good.
Okay. All right. And so after you had Daniel, you went to per diem.
Yes.
Okay. So you were able to choose your schedule.
Yes.
Bill, at this point, how many years on the job did he have?
8 years.
8 years.
Roughly,
okay. So he's pretty established. And
84. We had her 92. So yeah, about 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And at this time, what kind of specialty assignments did he partake in within that first 8 years in the highway patrol?
I don't remember timeline wise. He was never a motor, never wanted to be a motor.
Did he say why?
Just not a bike person.
Interesting.
Just
okay.
Not ever a bike person. It was always the highway patrol. He was never going to be a city cop. Never wanted that. It was that from little, apparently, it was highway patrol. But he was an FTO. He was on the protective service detail, so he did all the dignitary stuff. Never tested to promote, never took a sergeant's exam. He did not want that end of things.
What was the reason for that?
He liked being on the road.
Interesting. Okay.
He liked the interaction with people. He liked what he was doing. From all indications, he was doing his dream job, and there was no reason to change that. No reason to muck it up.
So he was loving it. He was happy as could be.
He was happy as could be. Like, never wanted anything more than just to do what he was doing.
Got it.
You know.
Yeah. Getting to chase people and drive fast, and
getting to chase people and drive fast, and yeah.
Okay.
He worked with a good group of people. He had transferred different offices throughout the time, but came back to his original office.
Okay.
And loved it.
And so I know how it is with the police department and becoming a family, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So did he have friends that were on his shift that you guys would go out to dinner with or go to concerts, and you guys were all close and double date, triple date?
Double date, triple date. I'm still friends with them. His beat partner and his graveyard partner, I am still friends. He was the best man in our wedding. He was there when my kids were born. We still are in touch. So yes, very much a family.
Got it.
As much as people have moved around, retired at this point and stuff, we still keep in contact.
Still keeping in touch.
Yep.
Okay.
Good people.
Yeah.
Just good people.
I love it. And my dad has the same thing. And these officers that retired
from our department.
Yeah.
Still, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with our veteran community too. Like, from the friendships I created in the Marine Corps, I still talk to them. I still have them on like group chats. I still talk to them, and it's the same with our first responder community. And we spend so much time with the people that we work with. Mm-hmm. You build such a special bond.
Yes.
And I think there are times where, and we'll talk about this more in a little bit, where you end up spending more time with the people you work with and your work family than at home for special assignments, such as Rodney King for 5 days. He was with the people that he worked with and wasn't home for 5 days.
Yep. But no, good group of people. And got something in common, which already is a foundation for a friendship. And if you're good people, it just lasts. So yeah.
So I want to hear a like a little funny story. So with him chasing people, arresting people, some of the calls that he'd been on, I mean, you see so much stuff, and I'm sure
he was only injured on the job once.
Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah, his graveyard partner is who did it.
What happened? Were they doubled up?
They were doubled up.
Because CHP doubles up. I think it's
graveyard.
Yes, I think it's 10 p.m. I think the start time is somewhere around 10.
Yeah.
They double up until
6 something.
Which I like. I think smart, especially at night.
Yeah, because there aren't, big areas to cover.
Yeah.
They were making an arrest. The guy was combative. He wasn't cooperating at all. My husband's trying to subdue him, get the handcuffs on him, and his partner had a baton and whacked the wrong hand.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And those hurt.
Those hurt.
They hurt very bad.
So I remember I was working dispatch actually, and I get a call from the beat from his partner, and I'm like, "Hi, what's going on?"
Well, your first thought is, what?
Yeah, because why are you talking?
Yes. Yeah.
And not? Yep. And he goes, and he was immediately, "Hi, it's Craig, Donna, everything's fine, but."
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Ooh, deep breath.
Where are you? We're at the hospital. He's getting taken care. I'm like, can you put him on the phone? I'm like, yeah. So yeah, the one and only injury was the result.
The tone in your voice there was like, are you like, what happened? Like,
yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I'm on my way down. Yes, okay. I'll be there. Yeah. Sorry.
And was the arm broken?
No. He thumb.
Smashed. Oh, thumb. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Got it. Yeah. So,
that was his only CHP. He had a secondary job the last 6 months. Actually, no, it wasn't less. In 1999, he got a secondary job all cleared and everything. He got hurt with that. That was almost career ending.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the only time he was injured on the job, it was from his partner,
Okay.
who I'm still in touch with.
So that's crazy. That's like, it's not even a fight with the subject that you're trying to arrest. It's my partner hit me with a stick.
Partner, yeah, bruised it up pretty good. Yeah, it could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been a broken arm or hit his head or something.
Yeah.
But
and where I dispatched was in the same county where he worked. And there were calls that we went on to officer, major things. Everybody's going. And I'm thinking, he's too far away. He's not. And he'd be right in the thick of it. I'd find out afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like,
why are you always there?
Yes. Why are you always there? But you're always there.
Yeah. I knock on wood, I've only gotten hurt once on the job too.
Okay.
So we have something in common. Thankfully my 6 years on the motorcycle I've kept the tires upright.
Okay, good.
I've had one very close call.
Yes.
One very
your mother.
Yes. Yeah. All the gray hairs. That's me. Sorry, Mom. One very close call. And then the other one, similar to Bill, it was a coworker, but it was a dog.
Oh, okay.
So I got bit by one of our canines.
Ooh,
on a residential burglary. Dog goes in through the front door of the house, smells me and my partner at the time in the backyard. Their noses are incredible. Runs through the house, through the open back door, comes up, grabs onto my arm, and I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah.
I'm like, please get off.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, something in German.
Yes.
Fooey, something.
Yeah.
So dog is just gripping down, and I know that they're supposed to tear and rip muscles and all that. So I'm scared, and I was only had
trying not to fight it.
I only had a year on. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try not to pull away or anything. So after a couple seconds, the dog lets go and then grabs on my leg, like my left like calf area. So granted, this house hasn't been cleared yet. We don't know if the suspect's still inside. Yeah. And I am like a dumbass hopping around on my right foot in the backyard with my gun out, going with this dog, trying to get the dog off me.
Okay. I would have loved to have seen that. Yeah. Not that we were going through that, but I'm sorry. That's just like the thing movies are made for.
I know. I wish there was like surveillance cameras in the backyard that could have captured this, because that would be absolutely hilarious. So my partner's like kicking the dog, and then ended up with doggy getting tased, and that was kind of it. So that's the end of that story. But yeah, thankfully, just like Bill, only been injured once on the
got hit. His patrol car did get hit on the side of the road. Those tragic,
which has been happening a lot lately.
And fortunately, he was up on the embankment, so he didn't get hurt. The car was just total. I get the call afterwards again. If you see this on the news, okay, you kind of just learn not to react and panic to everything.
Yeah. And that comes with experience.
You try.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
A lot of time.
Yeah. And that's, I think that did happen 1 or 2 weeks ago, where a CHP officer was in his car on the side of the freeway with the rear lights on, and the DUI attractors. Yeah. The DUI drivers are attracted to the lights, and then they kind of just go towards that. And it's terrible. So that's why.
So a friend of mine lost her fiance, exact same way.
Really?
Yeah. Highway patrol officer down in San Jose.
And got rear-ended on the freeway by, was it a drunk driver?
Yep. Late at night. Yep. Drunk.
It's terrible.
Officer died. Yes.
Yeah, it's scary on the freeway.
Yeah. Get out of the car. Don't stay in the car. Yeah.
I know.
Hi.
Yep. And that's, I even do that on city streets. I get away from the car as much as possible to write tickets or do whatever, because if someone's going to hit the car, you want to be away from it. Or if
I never stand between them.
Yep, never walking between them.
Oh, there were things when my kids were learning to drive. It was like all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, and it is scary up there. I know, like, if I ever pull someone over on the freeway, because my grandfather was a CHP motor officer, and whenever I'd go on ride-alongs with my dad, I'd be like, can we go on 280? Can we go on the freeway and catch some speeders? And there's something that's on at my parents' house where I was in second or third grade.
That was a very common call. Your dad would be up and down.
They're like, what are you doing in that city?
What off ramp he was going to come out.
I love it, and I'm kind of the same way, and I pick up on that now. And I always get people on the PA and take the next exit, get off the freeway. So
be safe, find a light. Yes, all those things for everybody's safety.
Yeah, it's scary up there. So, okay, so was he on the major accident injury investigation team as well?
They have what they call MATE, the major. Yeah, he wasn't officially a member of that, but from his office, he was the go-to person. He kind of got the jobs like when there were officers that were ready to get off their training program after 45 days, they'd be off FTO. They would give them to my husband for the make or break.
Oh, so he had to make the tough decision.
Yes, he had to, we need this guy out, kind of do it right. We need the documentation. He needs to go kind of thing. So yes, he was also on when there were major incidences. He got called out.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So, and I can relate to that because I'm on call for it as well. Mm-hmm. So any major in kind of the northern part of the county, any major injury collision, I'm unfortunately on call, and it always comes in at the worst times. I don't know why that is. Yeah. Every time something happens, it's literally at the worst time.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and then
there's never a good time, and the person doesn't want to be involved in it. But
yeah, and then same thing with on call for the SWAT team. So if you're listening and you're on call and dealing with everything, I've been there and called out at the worst times possible. Yeah, and all that. It's not easy.
That just adds to it. You think you've got this block of time, you and family, not so much.
Yep. Yeah, and then it's like, oh, I gotta go. Literally, look at your phone in a text, and you're like, I gotta go. I'm sorry. Don't be mad at me. We'll talk later.
Exactly.
And let's see. So, what kind of did he feel comfortable talking to you about the stresses of the job and like things that he saw that affected him?
Looking back, no. I thought, get into more of this. I thought, yes. I thought dealing with things, but he wasn't one. He was a very even keel, even tempered type of person. So things didn't rattle him easily. Okay. And I just figured him not opening up about feelings or things that he felt, dealing with something or conflicted about things didn't really come up, but I just took it to be because he just, that's not where he goes.
Got it.
He doesn't go down the rabbit hole. So
okay. I'm assuming with that, throughout his time with the Highway Patrol, did he ever see a therapist?
No. Okay. And I don't know of any that did, as we were discussing early on.
Yeah.
You go through your initial testing to see if you are psychologically, qualified and fit for this, but nothing was checked afterwards. And I never knew him, and nothing came up that he had ever gone to a therapist or discussed any issues that he had.
Okay. Yeah, I still, going back to this, I feel like there needs to be like a 3-year, a 6-year, a 9-year check-in or every year. Some departments do it annually.
Yeah, I haven't kept up on a lot of changes or policy changes, and maybe I should have, but they always did the PPTs, the physical performance test. Once a year, they would have the physical performance test to make sure that you could run this fast, climb over this, add agility, that kind of thing. But their mental health was never checked on.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were asked, they'd have their training once a month, and, they'd have people come in to talk about what services they offered and things. So things were always available, but I don't know of anybody that ever took anybody up on those offers.
And as you said earlier, you guys were close with a lot of the other couples, and for you to say that you don't know, that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't think he ever, or anybody else I knew. I don't know of anybody that even later has come to me and said, at this point in my career or this, nothing.
Nothing at all.
Just the mindset of don't ask, don't tell kind of thing.
Suck it up, buttercup, move on.
It really was. It really was.
Okay. And so he was involved in an investigation for And I know you mentioned it before. It was a dignitary.
It was Polynesian royalty
Okay.
on the nights July 4th to the morning of July 5th. There was a multiple fatal that he got called out on.
Okay. So he was home.
He was home. It was late, 10:30, 11 o'clock. We were getting ready to go to bed kind of thing. And
yeah. On 4th, was this on July 3rd or July 4th?
It was July 4th going into the morning of the 5th.
Got it. Okay.
So,
So I'm trying to imagine that. Did you guys celebrate Independence Day?
No.
Okay.
I mean, where we are, there's,
it's
all banned and everything. Not a big 4th of July, boom, explosion kind of person.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to think for me, if I were to get called in at 10 p.m. on 4th of July, I would be.
Yeah, no, there was no reason he couldn't go.
Yes, I would be like, unfortunately, I cannot drive a vehicle right now because.
Yeah, no, there had not been any celebrating that would have prevented him from going and doing what he needed to do.
Okay, so after a full day of being awake and activities, everything gets called in at night. And, did he come back in the morning, or since it was a multi-fatal and it was probably a serious?
He was at the office until Sunday night. So that was a Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, we got the call. So for the next 4.5, 5 days, he was doing this investigation, getting the paperwork ready to submit to the DA because there had been an arrest made.
Got it. Was that a DUI related arrest?
It was a DUI, yeah. And then dealing with the government of where the dignitaries were from, the family, all of that was very sensitive. So he was pretty much not around. I mean, he may have come home to take a shower, but I don't recall at this point.
And he was placed in charge of that.
Yes.
Which is honorable.
Yes.
I mean, to be trusted with.
He was a go-to. If we're going to get something done, he was one of the people in the office that it was like,
give it to Bill. Give it to Bill. It'll be done right.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's just, that like shows his character, that he loved what he did, being on the streets.
He
didn't want to promote.
Nope.
Was happy as could be.
Yes.
And he was the guy that people would be like, okay, this needs to be done. Okay, Bill.
Yeah.
You take this on.
He's personable.
Yeah.
He's level-headed. He's going to say and do the right thing and not the wrong thing when dealing with the officials that need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
He's going to be diplomatic about things. He's going to be professional about things.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's doing. So he's not going to be BSing information about stuff. It's going to be done right the first time.
Which made you proud, probably,
very
right?
Proud of him.
Yeah.
Very proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everybody that he worked with, his partners probably.
I mean, there was a lot of good people. He wasn't the only one, but he was kind of a go-to person.
Good. I just wish he got on the motorcycle. I don't know. I love it so much.
No, he was not.
You were probably happy.
I was probably, I was very happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was never, bikes were never his thing, personally or professionally.
Okay. And so I'm actually going to ask a question prior to this. At this point, he was on for how many years?
22.
This was 22 years.
22 years.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And before that 22 years, or from day 1 to 22, when you guys started dating, that 1.5 year time frame, were there other officers in his department area or other friends that suffered from mental health or were had suicide attempts or actually died by suicide?
Yes, because he actually was called out and investigated 2 of them. One specifically that I recall was an officer that had worked in the same area office as him, had transferred out, but they brought in the outside area office to do the investigation, which was up in Northern California. So
got it.
He was one, I forget the number, but it was something like 7 or 10. He was that number in a year of just highway patrol officers, but he personally investigated 2 of them.
And yeah, that's a lot. I know. That's like it's almost once a month.
Yeah, you hear it, and it's like that can't be true.
Yeah,
that can't be true. But no, yeah.
well, and then
And
also
that many.
Yeah, and then also like, okay, one, two, what is the agency as big as California Highway Patrol? Not like knocking CHP,
Right.
but okay, there's two, there's three. Like what
Uh-huh.
what are we doing here?
Big
And I know
flags.
we're going to talk about this.
Big flags.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was also
Okay.
that guy that they called out for those kinds
Yeah.
of things. You know, I'm not doubting anybody else's capability, but he was the go-to guy. But yeah, to investigate two of them.
So the first one that he investigated, how many years into his career was he at that point?
The two that he investigated were a year or so before his. So he 20
21
years,
20 21 years. Okay.
Yeah. So enough time that he
Yeah.
pretty much seen what you can see and
Yeah.
been involved in what you can be involved with at
Yeah.
that point.
And granted, our CHP officers out there respond to fatal traffic collisions.
Yes.
Very often.
Yes. I went on a ride along with them for one.
Got it. Okay. Oh, and during the ride along,
Yes.
there was a fatal.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's
no, so they've seen a lot of what people should not see over and over.
Yeah. And it's so
like veterans. I just
it's terrible, and that just builds up and builds up on you. And then I'm sure him investigating a fellow police officer's death by suicide, I've never done it. I don't know many people that have investigated their own, and it affects not only them but the entire department, and affects, I assume, his lifestyle at home. So how was he when he investigated the first death by suicide? Do you remember?
I don't remember anything specific. I think it was more just confusion as to why somebody would do this. Why was this the only option? What? Okay. But the normal questions that someone would ask when this happens. But I don't recall changes in personality or routine or anything.
You're still the same Bill,
the same guy, the same goofy, giggly laugh and personality, and just not that I noticed, not that seemed to be.
Okay. And then, so these were within a 2-year time frame.
Yes.
So it's not even like it was when he had 10 years on and then a long break and then 20 years on.
They were very,
very close together.
Yes.
And then, do you remember any details about the second one? Or
the second one? I know it was a female officer, Northern California. I believe it was a personal relationship that had gone sour, and she went and just isolated herself with a bottle and her weapon. And they had done a search, looking for her. She was missing. Where is she, and led to there. They found her and they called in the group to do the investigation. And I knew her. I had met her when he worked at the same office as her. It had been several years before. We weren't close friends or anything, so I couldn't comment on her state of mind. But just more why would somebody do this? But then carried on to the next thing, because there was always a next thing. The next day I gotta get mentally ready to go out and face the world again. So it was like, push this aside, bury this, don't
which the 21 years has already been pushed to the side because of the stigma and the lack of therapy and resources back then.
It was the pattern. Just nope, bury it, move on to the next thing. Because there's a new day. There's somebody else that's going to need me. I've got to be ready.
And then you're going to see more.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, the first one that he investigated was something he didn't expect, has already pushed everything to the side. The first 20, 21 years, investigates that, pushes that to the side. And then a year, within a
less than a year,
time frame, you're faced with another one.
Yep.
And then that to the side.
Yes. There was never like, I don't know if it was never time to process or just didn't take the time or didn't make it a priority to process, didn't feel it was necessary. I think that's very common, is like, oh, I'll be fine. Been through this before. I was fine before. I'll be fine again, and just move on.
Yep. Yeah. That I know. I
can
think
see the look on your face.
Yeah. I think everybody listening is can probably relate to that. Even if you're not a first responder or veteran, like we've all, you're human. You go through deaths, you go through traumatic stuff, and you're like, oh, I've been through it before. I'll be good and everything. And you tell yourself that is like, it's like you telling your brain, no, I'll be fine, to try to protect yourself.
Yes.
But in reality, you're hurting yourself. You're making it harder for you.
I'll deal with it when I have time to. Right now.
And then when do you have time?
Yeah. So I'll just put, it's not a priority, and you don't ever revisit it.
Yeah. Which causes problems later on. And
yes.
Especially with doing all these podcasts and hearing all these stories and these admirable people coming on and sharing their stories and saying, yeah, I went through this traumatic incident, this one, and then it finally got to the point where I went to therapy, or my wife called me out and I went to therapy. And then it's like, okay, now I got to start with 10 years ago and discuss that. And then 5 years ago, I'm going to discuss this, what happened. And then you're finally getting to the root cause.
But it started way
back. Way back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for us, what we see from day one, what we experience is something that needs to be talked about
from the beginning. Yes.
And there needs to be more training on it and everything. Because the first week I did was observation. So you sit in the passenger seat and you're literally, what it sounds like, observation. You're observing everything that's being done. You get to talk on the radio a little bit, but it's your 1 week before you actually start the field training program, where you get to observe the officer who's going to be training you. And the first call that we got was it was a suicide via gunshot wound to the head. The lady was laying down, and I had to collect the bullet, and I had to collect the gun, and then read the suicide note and take pictures of the suicide note. My first call. The guy I went to the academy with was doing the crime scene log on the top of the stairs. And I got handed a camera, and they're like, here, welcome to the job. You're the new guy. Take the pictures and do all this. And I'm like 21 years old. I'm like, what the fuck?
First, I don't know how many dead bodies you had seen before then, but it's
it's
and this way
in a coffin. That's it. At a funeral where you see dead bodies, like the makeup, they're covered up. They're in suits. Yes, the way that you're supposed to see a deceased person and give your last goodbyes and everything. And I probably in the thousands of dead bodies I've seen now where you're not supposed to see. And then for Bill and many other CHP officers like that, they're responding to these major vehicle collisions on a daily basis. And you're seeing just bodies mangled, picking up pieces of bodies on the freeway, where it's like, we need to be talking more. We need more time off. We need to not.
This is not a routine call. This is
no.
I mean, they happen routinely, but they're not routine in what it leaves you with. Yeah.
And that's a very common word, being a police officer. A routine traffic stop.
If I hear that term on the news one more time.
This officer was on a routine traffic stop and then got shot at 10 times. We
both know those aren't true.
Yeah. No. So, and that kind of just like the conversation about him being on for 21 years and then investigating these two and not talking about it, not going to therapy, not really showing any signs to you that he's been maybe affected by it. And then everything was fine.
As far as I knew. So I thought.
Yeah.
I mean,
which a lot of people hate that word, fine.
Yeah.
When you say I am fine, I know in Italian job, it stands for freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Yeah. U.S.A. fine because you can't go where it really needs to go. There isn't time for it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it's to end a conversation.
Yep.
Fine.
Yep. And next, let's talk about something else. Or exactly. Good.
As far as I knew, there were no issues. I didn't pick up on anything. Nothing.
And Daniel and Mandy, anything?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing. And nothing from anybody else either. Because as we'll talk about,
yep.
It was quite extensive.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay. So this big investigation comes out with this DUI fatality collision. Of course, Bill being Bill is the one to get called to investigate it. Yes. And with a big case like that, not only it was Tongan, or what was it? Sorry.
Tongan royalty.
Tongan royalty, yeah. Yes. Involved, and you got to talk to the government there, and that just brings up to a whole nother level of stress and what you have to deal with, and
dot and cross
T and more than most. And you have I'm sure the captains and chiefs were requiring updates, and we want this to be done. And I'm sure that wasn't the only thing that he had going on. There was probably some other stuff that people were asking him to do or going to him or something. So can totally understand the stress that comes along with it, and like how that must affect a person.
Yes. But I had no indication. I don't know if he was intentionally keeping me out of the loop, if I just wasn't picking up on things, but I don't think after that amount of time, I think it was just the normal way. I do what I do. He does what he, and if there's something, we talk about it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't picking up on anything that needed to be checked in with.
Okay. And that was the night of July 4th.
Into the 5th, yeah.
Into the 5th, gets called in. So July 5th, did you hear anything from him?
No, I would get phone calls, checking in, still here, everything's fine, how are the kids, just
the normal
kind of, it's like, okay, I'll see you when I see you.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
July 6th.
Same thing. This went on
July 7th.
Same. The weekend.
And Daniel and Mandy at that point understand what dad's going through.
Understand what dad's doing. It was summertime. They were both going to summer school. It was, seeing when we see him. They weren't little kids anymore. So.
And how old were they at this point? Just so
17 and 14.
Okay, got it.
About to enter senior year of high school and freshman year of high school.
Okay.
So pivotal times, but they weren't young.
Yeah.
Doing their thing, so they understood, okay, we'll see dad when we see dad kind of thing.
Got it. July 8th.
No, it was that Sunday, but whatever the Sunday was when he finally came home.
Okay. Did you get a phone call saying, hey, I'm finally coming home, I'll be home soon?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Just showed up and
I'm done. The report's ready to go to the DA. I'm done, kind of thing. And they'll need me for court. And I'm like, okay. Right. So.
And was that morning time, afternoon, evening when he got home?
I think it was late afternoon.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, it was a while ago. So
yeah.
Those particulars, I'm not sure.
Okay. And then normal evening?
Normal evening, dinner, there might have been Sunday night football on. Can't remember.
Okay.
But nothing out of the ordinary. Monday, nothing out of the ordinary. Normal. He was working day shift. So went into work, came home, dinner. No.
So he didn't even have a day off.
No.
They didn't
say
like, hey, you were just.
Nope. At that point with his seniority, and he wasn't really a day shift, but he was working day shifts with weekends off. So it was like, like a normal, a quote unquote, routine.
Your scheduled day.
It wasn't normal for us to have 9 to 5ers or 7 to 3ers in the family, but
yeah.
But no, he wasn't going to have a day off till the weekend.
Yeah, and I see that as a problem, right? Like if you're working on something so big like that, it's like take 2 or 3 days off, process everything that you've been through. You deserve a break.
No,
but no, it was this is your normal day.
This is your
back
normal
here
day.
At this time.
This is what you need to do. This is the timeline. This is what DA needs. This is what we need.
Yeah,
it's all part of the job.
Yeah.
So You just do it because you need to.
Yeah. And that's all you know.
That's all you know.
Okay. So Monday, normal day.
Normal day.
Comes home and everything was fine.
Everything was fine. Nothing out of the ordinary. Picked up on nothing. We talked about normal stuff. We had a trip planned for 2 or 3 weeks away, do a college tour. So we were talking about that, finalizing plans, talking about the week, normal stuff.
Zero signs.
Zero signs. Nothing. I know people have it's like, really nothing?
Yeah. And I'm trying to,
No.
I'm trying to think. And you know him very well.
Yeah.
And there were no problems in the relationship.
No.
Everything was healthy.
Everything was healthy.
Okay.
It was good.
And then the next morning,
Tuesday was a normal day. Went to work. Regular thing. Tuesday night, came home, had dinner, watched the baseball all-star game on TV. 10 o'clock. It's like, I'm going to bed. Says I'm going to bed. He had training. Their monthly training was going to be the next day. Going to bed. Okay, kiss good night. See you in the morning. That was it,
Yeah.
Like,
just a normal.
Everything.
Yeah.
As it had been the day before, and the
Years passed.
Exactly. Wednesday morning, I woke up. I looked outside. Always look outside, see what the weather is looking like, what's going on. Saw his truck there. Didn't think too much of it because I thought, one of the guys picked him up and they rode in together. Got my kids off to summer school, and I went to open the front door to get the morning paper.
After dropping
the
kids off,
the
they
kids
were already
had
at
taken
school.
themselves
Okay.
because Daniel was driving, so it was like he's going to take himself. They're going to go. Open the front door to get the morning paper, and I see officers and detectives from my local PD getting out of their cars and coming across the street. And there was maybe half a dozen of them, and I knew a couple of them personally.
Got it. And what was the initial thought, initial reaction?
I had the screen door open to reach down, and I'm standing in the doorway, and I see them, and I look at the one I know, Kenny.
Yep.
And I go, Kenny, where are my kids? My first thought was something had happened to the kids because they were going to school in town, and this was my local PD coming. And I said, Kenny, where are my kids? And he says, the kids are fine. And I said, then why are you here? Because as we all know, we've been told it's the knock at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about the phone call. It's the knock at the door.
Yeah.
Well, I beat the knock at the door.
Yep.
And Kenny looked at me and he said, Donna, I'm sorry. And he said, Bill's gone. And I just dropped. I remember specifically just dropping.
Just dropping to the floor.
And him picking me up and just wasn't possible. They were wrong. All the
denial.
The denial. It's not true. It's wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah.
Just.
And I can only imagine that.
And I remember screaming. I remember just letting out a blood-curdling scream. I don't know how the neighbors weren't all on their porches wondering what the hell was going on.
Mm-hmm. Did it help having Kenny there, knowing him?
It did. It did, because it was a familiar face, and I think maybe that was part of the reason not that I found out afterwards, but I knew that there were discussions afterwards about making the notifications.
Yeah.
And I think because Kenny knew me, I knew Kenny, it was not some stranger. And you know who Kenny is that I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Because of that history, and me knowing that history and having dealt with that history, I think they felt that he was the most understanding and that I would respond best to.
Okay. Which makes complete sense.
It makes complete sense.
So,
but here I've got, six
more
officers and detectives, all, there we are.
Okay.
Me in my bathrobe. And I mean, it was, So yeah, I beat the knock at the door,
Okay.
which no one should ever get that knock.
No, no, that's the last thing that anybody,
Yeah.
any spouse, significant other wants
Family
to.
member, anybody.
Nobody wants that at
No.
all. So,
Yeah. But my first reaction was, where are my kids?
okay.
Because it was inconceivable to me that something had happened to my husband, and it just made more sense that the
Yeah.
timing and
Yeah.
everything for my kids.
While they were on their way to school,
Yeah.
something unfortunate happened,
Yes.
which makes
Yes.
complete sense. So, understandably, scream, denial,
Yep.
fall to the ground. What happened after that?
They told me what had happened and where.
And was that Kenny was telling you?
Kenny was telling me that my husband, at some point after going to bed and before 8 o'clock in the morning, he got up, threw on sweats and a sweatshirt, took his driver's license, his off-duty weapon, and walked a couple blocks down the street and sat on the baseball field at the park and shot himself with his gun.
And
a dog walker found him.
Someone walking their dog just.
Yeah, which I always wanted to reach out to that person, but didn't exactly know how to do it.
Yes, which is
because they were dealing with their own.
Yep.
And I'm sorry that they went through that and had to experience that.
Yeah.
So it was a matter of, we got to get the kids. So after he told, and I was just in disbelief. None of it made sense to me. But it was, we have to tell the kids. And how are we going to tell the kids? So we called my parents. My dad came over. My mom was out. My dad came over, and it was agreed upon that my dad, and backtracking a little bit, one of the first things I remember after I kind of regained any sense of being able to speak was, where's the highway patrol? I was like, where are they? Why aren't they here? They immediately called the office, told them what happened. Several of them came up, called my parents. My dad came over, and it was decided that my dad and one of the officers that my kids knew would go to the school where they were at and get them. Well, the school was notified what had happened because where this baseball field was, where my husband was on school property at a different school. So the school district had to be notified because of an incident on their property.
Yeah.
So the school was notified that people were coming to get my kids and what had happened. And I just remember thinking, how am I going to tell them? How am I going to tell my kids that this happened? And so my dad and Carl went and got him. And the whole way home, it was like, well, what's going on? Why are we being pulled out of school? They didn't sense that something terrible had happened, but they knew something
was going on.
And the kids walked in the house, and I told them that their dad was gone. And I thought that was the hardest thing I was ever going to have to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because the first words out of my son's mouth was, who's the SOB that killed my father? And then I had to tell them what happened. And I don't know. And everybody was there. The officers were also, very supportive. Can't say anything but great things. But that was the worst thing, is having to tell the kids how it happened. In the line of duty, in a car accident, those are all things that we anticipate, not that we're wanting them to happen at all, but we know those are possibilities. This was never in the realm of possibilities. Yeah. This was not anything that we would have ever expected.
Yeah. And to add to that is they were never exposed to another first responder that they knew of that died by suicide.
Exactly. There was nothing to prepare us for this. Like I was saying, I didn't see anything. We had this trip, the college trip planned for a couple of, My husband took his uniforms to the dry cleaners the day before. I still have that receipt. But that's not the mindset of somebody who's not planning for the future.
Yeah. You do that if you're planning to wear that uniform for the next week or two.
Exactly. There were investigations by everybody. My local police department did an investigation. The county sheriff's office did an investigation. The highway patrol did an investigation. The DA's office did an investigation because they were looking to see, is there corruption? Is there bribery? His medical records were delved into, our marriage, our finances were delved into by everybody.
Which is...
It's invasive, but it was necessary. And
yes.
I don't begrudge or have any negative feelings towards anybody and what they did, what they asked, the questions. My house was searched. It's not a comfortable feeling to have your life.
Yep. Look through everything in fine detail, not only once.
Yes. But I understood it had to be done to find answers or just everybody needed clarification. Everybody needed to dot their I's and cross their T's on where could this have gone? What else is there something else going on, that's going to involve other people or other things? We didn't know. We still don't know.
So I'm going to rewind a little bit.
Sure.
You are inside of the house.
Yes.
With Kenny.
Yes.
And 5, 6, 7 other police officers, detectives mixed in. And
eventually I've got the lieutenants, the captains, the brass is coming, and just the coroner's there because I know him. And, just I had a house full of people for days.
Okay. And you haven't even had time to really process this.
No.
At all.
No.
Literally, Kenny just told you.
Yes.
And you're still processing, in denial at this point. Were you seated in a chair on the couch in the living room?
I was all over the place. I would be sitting down. When Kenny told me I was standing in my doorway, I eventually went into the house. I remember I was sitting on the floor when the kids came home, and I had to tell them. But
so they
walked in the house, and they were
in the house, and why is everybody here?
It was like, what is going on?
And why is mom sitting on the floor?
Yeah.
And at that point, were you in tears, crying?
Yes. Yes. In
physically
shaking. Yeah. Physically can't catch my breath. Barely coherent. I mean, trying to gather my thoughts instantaneously because I'm sure there was a period of time between me finding out and the kids, but it seemed like it was 5 minutes. But I know it was longer than that. But things seemed to be happening so fast. And I felt so out of control.
Yeah.
And many, many times over the years, I have told myself I need the world to slow down so I can catch up. And that's what it felt like, is you all need to stop and let me gather my thoughts, which was going to take longer than they had. But
yeah. Well, and on top of trying to understand what happened.
Yeah.
Having everybody in your house.
Questions,
the denial. You're also preparing yourself to telling Daniel and Mandy.
That was the worst.
Which is
the worst.
The last thing we would ever want to go through, like you said, with the officer involved shooting, a vehicle collision, anything, but to tell them that he took his own life.
Yeah.
Preparing yourself for that, which is even harder. Like, I don't know how you did that.
I think I said something to the effect of he did it, or it was him, or something. And it's kind of a blur, but I'm sure that Kenny or somebody else stepped in, Carl, people that they knew, explained further, because I could barely get the words out. It just, like I said, I thought telling them was going to be the hardest thing, but telling them how was
How
I didn't expect my son's reaction when he
was it? Was it right away?
instantly when I said your dad's gone, his immediate reaction was, "Who's the SOB?" And I'm cleaning it up. Who's the SOB that killed my father? That those words just, and I didn't expect them.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
at the time, I don't think I expected them to ask how or care how, just that it happened. And
You were not ready for a follow-up.
I was not ready for the how. I was not ready for the how at all. And that was, it took me by surprise. Even, I was getting the 1-2 punch. I felt like I was getting hit from both sides all at the same time. But no, I did not expect that question that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, because there was anger, and my son does not anger easy, but the look on his face and the clenched fists and the stance that he had was like he was ready to go tear somebody, and
Yeah.
And it was like, no, this was his doing. He did this to himself and to us.
And you mentioned earlier Daniel was the cool, calm, while Mandy was the the loud one.
Yeah. Yeah. The outspoken one, the more
the
vocal,
outspoken one.
the more. That's why coming from my son, having him say that was just very uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
I could have seen that from my daughter or something to that effect, but it just, and it was an immediate response from him. So gave me no time to prepare.
Got it. And how was Mandy's reaction? 3 years younger.
She just started crying, was very upset, went in her room, immediately left the rest of us and went to go talk to people. I think she got on the phone pretty quickly, right away, to find her group where she needed to be. She just didn't want to be in the middle of all of this. Initially, we kind of all three went in different directions for what we needed at that moment.
Yeah, and rightfully so, because you're trying to process everything, and then you want to go to a safe place.
Yes.
And you don't want strangers and people that and it's like,
we'll get to that part. Yes. That was like I said, I had a lot of people at the house over the next week. And one of them was a counselor that was brought in pretty soon afterwards. I don't remember if it was that day or the next day. It was almost too soon. And she wanted to sit down with the three of us. And my daughter was like, I can't talk to you. You don't know what I'm going through. Did your father commit suicide? Until that's happened, I can't talk to you. Mm-hmm. I wasn't ready. Yeah. And I understood why they had somebody there. And I appreciate that fact. I've been very grateful for the department in everything over the last years, but it was almost too soon to talk about because I wasn't still processing everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, having strangers telling you, I know what you're going through, I know what you feel, was like, no.
Yeah. And that's, and I totally don't blame her because I wouldn't want someone.
I couldn't either. I couldn't blame her. I couldn't no.
Yeah. And I don't know what the counselor said to that, but you're not going to lie and say, yes, I lost my father to suicide, or I lost my mother to suicide. And I'll kind of prove it to you. So then that I've been through what you are currently going through. Other than that, like, no, you cannot relate.
Right. Right.
So I get it. It's the nice gesture, but
it was. And
not that.
At least I knew the support was there when we were ready for it.
Yes.
But Mandy went to her friends and her safe place and her support. My son gravitated family, and then and I just took whatever I could get at the moment, whenever I needed it, whatever I need. I just, like I said, when you said if I was sitting down or standing up, I was between everyone.
All over.
The nervous energy running through me was almost unbearable.
Yeah. And so at this point, Mandy's in her room.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel is
somewhere in the house at various points.
okay. And then same thing with you. You were walking around, sitting, standing,
talking, from 1 second to the next. Should I call this person? What do I need to do? Who do I need to? Right after I had said we need to tell the kids, it was somebody needs to go and notify his mom.
Mm.
So they made arrangements, and she knew enough people from the departments, and it was like this, it needs to be this person who will go to her, that she will have that person.
And did they do that in person?
They did.
Then they went to
Yes.
her residence. So
Yes.
she was that the knock on the door?
She lived in the city where I had been a dispatcher,
Okay.
and where her son had been a reserve officer.
Yes.
So she knew a lot of the officers. So we made sure it was one of them.
Yes.
And yes, she got the knock.
She got the knock.
She got the knock at the door.
Okay. And so when you beat the knock, you saw it coming, you dropped to the ground screaming, the normal reaction that how we would probably all react to. How was her experience?
I don't know, because she was one not to talk about things like that, and she never. So I don't know. I know the person who told her, because I was friends with them, that she handled it very well. She was very upset immediately. Who do I need to contact? What do I need to do? But I don't know if there was surprise, if there was anger, in addition to the sadness, then the shock that would have been involved. But I don't know. I don't know.
And you never, are you in a place where you don't need to know, or do you still talk to her? Are you kind of curious, or how's that?
We weren't really, really close to begin with. This created even more of an issue.
Got it.
One of the things that I was asked was why I didn't do anything to stop this. And
was that by her?
Yes. While we were making the arrangements for the funeral.
Oh, so on top of everything
else, I get that.
What we've talked about, the no signs, the I'm going to bed, the kiss goodnight, everything totally normal, to the surprise, the beating the knock, Daniel and Mandy's reactions, and now you get asked, why didn't you stop this?
Why didn't I do something to stop this? And it's like, in my head, my reaction probably at the time was something like, what, you think I stood by and did nothing so I could be in this situation? It was just ridiculous. She has since passed away. She passed away this past March. But I never really felt comfortable in asking. And I don't think I ever would have really gotten a true answer. I think I would have gotten an answer that just pacified.
Okay.
Because I don't think she wanted to talk about it.
Got it. And how do you feel about like being in the position that you're in, where obviously now that she's deceased, you don't really know her reaction or how she kind of coped with everything. Do you feel okay with that, or do you still have questions?
Not from her. I don't have questions from her. I'm okay with it, because however she dealt with it and whatever her reaction was her reaction, and she dealt with it in a way that worked for her, that she was comfortable with. And that's all anybody should be expected to deal with, is what works for you.
Yeah.
If it works for you, then I'm good.
Okay.
Because I've seen the other side of that. My brother passed away. It'll be 29 years in May. My parents dealt with it very, very differently. And one trying to get the other to deal with it their way, or what they thought was correct. I saw that that's not right. So I'm fine with not knowing how she dealt with it and what her reaction was, as long as she was good.
Got it.
With how she dealt with it.
Okay. So they notify her. you still have a bunch of people in your house.
Mm-hmm. And
And
making phone calls.
and so how long, and this was morning.
Yes.
So what was that? What was the day like?
The day was just, it was a lot of people. There were a lot of people. I was getting a lot of phone calls, neighbors, what's going on? What's going on? My department was hearing it. Word was getting out.
Yep.
Through the departments, through the schools, through friends. So there was a lot of activity. The guys all took it over. I wasn't answering the phone.
Yep.
I wasn't, I was hanging out in the living room receiving, or I'd be sitting out on the front porch or something. But it was just, you handle everything because I can't right now. I remember a lot of food. There was a lot of food that started coming because there was a lot of people that were there. And it was kind of a blur because things weren't setting in. This wasn't normal.
Yes.
So
correct.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Nothing of that. This many people, this going, nothing was normal about it. And I just kind of shut down. It was like, whatever needs to happen, do it. Somebody take control and do it because it's not going to be me. Because I just.
Yeah. Which is totally understandable for you to be like, I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want to explain to people. I don't want to have people give me their reaction, be like, oh my God, is there anything I can do? And you don't even know what needs to be done next. You're just like, kind of like, excuse me, but like, leave me the fuck alone.
It still didn't seem real.
Yeah.
It still was like, no, this can't be happening. This is not happening. It sounds silly, but I'm in a dream. I'm going to wake up. I was numb to everything it was like I was watching it happen to another group of people. It wasn't my life. It wasn't my house. It wasn't me. No, it was some kind of sick joke.
And that was the whole day, people at the house?
It was the whole day and the next several days. Because they were still doing the investigations. There were still questions. I had captains and commanders at my house deciding about the funeral. Because that was going to be, it wasn't going to be just your average little, it was a full, and no disrespect to anybody, because I know there's a huge difference between the two, but it was done as a line of duty funeral. So it involved everything. The church was packed, officers on the streets outside lined. We had a lot from out of state that came in. I mean, family, friends, former coworkers that were coming in from out of state. So there was a lot of arrangements that had to be made and things that had to be put together. And I'm having to decide about how to word a program and what flowers and just the whole thing. So
this was how many days?
Oh, probably 3 or 4. It finally died down by the weekend as far as that level of activity. His best friend that he worked with, the guy that I said was the best man in our wedding, I called him. He was working in an office out of the area 3 hours away. He was one of my first phone calls. He told his commander what happened. The commander had already heard what happened. He was sent up for as long as I needed him. So I had him for a week.
Okay.
So then it just became John and the family, my kids, my parents, that kind of thing. Bill's family.
Yeah.
Deciding what was going to be happening and how and when, but yeah, so for several days, I had people in and out of my house, just going through my life, going through his life.
Yeah. And at that point, obviously, you appreciate everybody coming by and
yes.
But
I was exhausted.
How did you feel? Were you like, I appreciate it, but
I was
like
exhausted.
I need, yeah.
The next day, I remember my mom was, because fortunately my parents living so close, my mom was with me quite a bit. And I remember laying down to try and take a nap. And my mom was like, I'll take care of it. I'll handle this. Anybody who's coming, the phones and everything, because I just needed to step away from everything. So I had good people that had my best interest. And what did I need? Literally, what did I need at that moment? I need a nap. Then go take a nap. And I was able to get some rest. And I took advantage of those moments when I could.
Okay. And then for the kids, Daniel and Mandy off school for.
They didn't go back to school that week. They went back. He died on a Wednesday. The funeral was going to be the following Wednesday. They didn't go to school the rest of that week, but they went in the Monday and Tuesday before the funeral for some normalcy. I told them they didn't have to. Yep. They just wanted to do something that was familiar to them. And everybody had known what happened. Small towns, things get out. But it was still an okay place for them to be because it was away from everything that was going on. And I think they just needed to shut it all out and do something completely unrelated, which I would have liked to have done at some point. But that week there was a focus and I needed to take care of it.
Yeah. How you feeling?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know when we talked about this over coffee, take a little break from the story.
Yes.
When we talked over coffee, what was that? A month ago? 4 weeks ago?
Yeah. About that.
And to get some more details, because obviously I knew what happened, but I only knew
but not
specifics. So getting the specifics was emotionally draining for me.
Oh.
And then to get into this with the podcast and everything is even more like emotionally draining. And does it help talking about it?
Yes.
Have you been to therapy?
I have.
Okay.
I went probably a couple months afterwards when things were quote unquote getting back to normal. And so I did for a while. And then again, maybe 5 or 6 years later, because I wasn't sure if I was okay or if I was just telling myself I was okay. I wanted to make sure that what I was feeling was still in the spectrum. Like, again, the word normal, but am I off track? Am I in the wrong direction? And I needed a check-in to find out because I was still dealing with things that I thought I should have been over or past, because I've known of other people, not necessarily survivors of suicide, which I found out that that's what I am. But after death that had kind of progressed, or I thought progressed further than I had. And I just needed to make sure I wasn't ignoring signs or fooling myself into thinking I was okay.
So you took that upon yourself.
Yes.
And you just want to make sure you're on track.
Yes.
Or that you're doing good. Okay.
Yes. Because I still go through some of the steps of grieving, different points, not every day, not to the degree I did, but I needed that check-in point of like, am I doing the right things for myself? Am I moving myself in the right direction to heal? Or am I making things worse if there's something I'm doing that's counterproductive?
When you went to that therapist, did you kind of feel the same way that Mandy felt when she was like, have you lost a spouse to suicide?
I didn't.
Or you were okay?
I was okay. I just needed, it was more about me at that point.
Okay.
It was more, am I doing the things that are good for me and healthy for me? This is how I'm spending my time, or this is where I'm putting my focus and my energy, or this is what I'm ignoring and putting to the side, and this is what I'm paying attention to. Are these healthy steps for me? Was more what I was concerned with.
Which makes sense. And I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, it helped.
I'm sure you are too.
It helped.
And that actually kind of leads. Someone asked a question on Instagram, like what was the the most helpful thing others did for you that helped you heal, or you did for yourself? And then what was the least helpful?
I think the thing that helped me the most, I had a great core group of friends, still do. And what helped me was if I needed them, they were available. And when they offered help, I took it.
Mm.
I took every opportunity and everything that was offered to me. It helped me for that moment or longer, but I also knew it was helping them because I realized they were also grieving.
Yep.
And didn't know how to process it. So I allowed somebody else in so we could do it together. So that was a huge help for me, was my friends opening themselves up to me, allowing me to open up to them.
And you probably didn't realize it till later that it was also helping them.
It took a long time before for somebody many years later said, we were going through stuff too and didn't know where to go with it.
Got it.
And it was like, oh my God, of course.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that helped me was taking advantage of whatever was offered. The break, the time, just the ability. Nobody shut me down. Nobody was telling me, and if they weren't the right person for me. But they were allowing me to go through what I had to go through. That was huge. The thing that was not helpful were people who were like, well, you should be past it by now, or why are you still feeling like that? Wrong thing to say to somebody. Obviously, why didn't you do anything to stop this was the thing 16 years later that still bites at me.
Yep. That the hardest.
Oh,
by far,
because no one would willingly not do something to stop this from happening. That's just not in people's nature to, oh yeah, they said this, that, or the other thing. And, I just said, oh, I'll go do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. So my biggest thing is when people offer help, take it. It helps both of you.
Yeah. And obviously this is just an outsider looking in, but
which is helpful.
I could imagine everybody offering help to you and being overwhelmed and just saying, no, I don't want this, even though you probably need it or would benefit from it. I could imagine myself, if I'm putting myself in that position, being like, hey, let's go. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm in my safe place. And then kind of get in the habit of just continuing to do that.
I did to some degree, but I had a couple really good friends still to this day who hold me accountable. And they go, okay, you said not now. So what about now? I also took it upon myself that I'm not ready right now, but can I get back to you? And I'd stick that away. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready now. Are you available now? I wasn't ready then. I'm ready now. And those that are going to be the most help are going to go, yes, I'm still here. It's not the ones that are just offering in the moment, but it's down the road. And I do have those people in place that are always there, regardless of how much time has passed since the incident. They're still there for me because I'm still a widow. My husband still committed suicide. My kids still lost their father. So my circumstances haven't changed, just the amount of time from when it changed.
Correct. And I think it's great that you had such a good core group.
It's important.
And as we talked about before,
you find out who your friends are.
Really?
You find out who your good friends are. The friends that you can call up in the middle of the night that will come over and hold your hand while you just sob uncontrollably, they're not just paying lip service.
Yeah.
And I had those people. It was very important. They're very special to me.
Yeah. And that's great. I'm so glad you had that because who knows what would have happened if you didn't have such a good core group.
I was being watched. I found out a while back. people, I know my family, my mom specifically, everywhere I would go, I mean, in my house, I'm going to the kitchen, I'm going to the bath, I would have to announce.
Got it.
Because they were worried about where I was going to go. What am I going to do with this? Is this too much for me to handle? And I'm going to go down a road, whether it's an addiction road or a mental health road. And so people were very concerned.
Yeah. And so I was going to go to that, but first I was going to ask, I was going to say that you mentioned the core group of friends, and before we talked about double, triple dates with the fellow officers and their spouses and significant others. And I think it's so important, like you said, to have a good core group of friends amongst our community that understand what we go through. And now I kind of lost my train of thought here, but
that aren't going to be judgmental, that aren't going to dismiss your feelings.
Yes. And then also it's having them to know who your friends are that you can call on when you need them at a moment's notice. And I think if we take the proactive step and everybody looks in the mirror and says, who are those people, and is able to identify 2, 3, 4, 5 core people, when you find yourself in a dark place, you're already one step ahead of the game because you've already identified those people.
It was huge. It was huge having people that I could turn to, no questions asked.
Yeah.
And I still have those people. And I also, now being a few years, 16 years away from it, not that but I wonder, am I going to be, or am I that person for somebody else? When somebody else is struggling or has whatever, and I'm not talking just suicide, but whatever it is in their life that they need somebody, can I be and will I be that person for somebody else? I hope so.
Yeah.
Because it's like paying it forward. They were there for me. I couldn't have gotten through at all without that. Part of it was my kids too. It was like, there was no way my kids were going to go through anything more. I would not allow it. So I willed myself
and
that I wasn't going anywhere.
Put them through anything like that.
They already lost enough. Lost enough.
Yeah. And that's a concern of mine is, say you were in the same position and did not have Daniel and Mandy, and you didn't have that where you're like, I will never put them through this again. And I'm curious what you think about this, is if it would be easier for you to have gone down a road of potential addiction or depression, or I guess like a sense of having to be strong for them.
I don't think I would have necessarily gone down an addiction road. I mean, no one can ever say, because no one ever plans that. That's not something people seek.
But you see where I'm getting at.
But I think depression could have been something that would have been ahead of me. And I don't have a huge world. I have a tight world. I think I could have made my world very, very small and could have really shut out the world. Like, no, it's just me kind of thing. And gone down that rabbit hole of just isolation and negativity. I already have a pessimistic attitude but I think it could have gotten that way if it weren't for the kids, because everything, it's like, how will this affect the kids? What's the impact of the kids?
And that was your first thought.
That was my first thought.
Like when you beat the knock on the door, when you had to tell them.
My kids were my first reaction to that. Still went on a college trip with my son. We changed up how we were doing it and postponed it by a week or two. But it was like, no, this is important. This needs to happen for them. This is his future. I need to ensure that the kids don't suffer any more than they have to with what's happened, or go without what they need to have to succeed. And I was a helicopter parent before I became it was bad. It was bad. It didn't get good. And when you've got teenagers, that's, so it was a rough time. I mean, senior and freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Not the easiest formative years. And
yeah, and they're lucky to have you.
thank you.
They are very
I'm lucky to have them.
Yeah.
We, the three of us, we did it together. But
yeah.
yes, I'm very, very fortunate. But thank you.
You're welcome, of course. And for Daniel and Mandy, how were the weeks after? How was the progression after that day?
I think my son became even more introvert, reserved, guarded. My daughter, it was her core group of friends and her circle, and not just her friends, but her teachers. There's a story behind her teacher lobbied for her to be able to stay in the school district she was in. I mean, school board members were lobbying for her. Parents were on her side. She had a great network. And she just stayed within that because that's where her comfort level was.
Got it.
And then continued being, she's, going to push forward kind of kid and not let things get in her way. And she didn't want to be labeled as that kid.
Got it.
But she found support. Unfortunately, there was an organization at her high school of kids who had lost parents through various means, illness, accidents.
Yeah.
And she found support there because they were kids who had lost a mom, lost a dad, and could talk about what they were feeling. And it felt like, okay, it may not be the same way, but you can look me in the eye because you know what it's like to lose a parent at this age.
Unlike the counselor that came 3 days later.
Exactly. These were her peers that were telling her. It wasn't adults telling her how to act or behave.
Yep.
It was other kids telling about their feelings.
And I think that is so important to have that, especially at the age, 16? 14. To have your peers in the same position, granted, the means of death were...
It's terrible that there has to be that group, but I was glad that there was... somebody saw a need.
Yes.
And put it together.
And that's so important. And that's honestly the first time I've heard of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's great that they had that. And then, did your son go through anything like that?
No, he wasn't going to be one to open up.
He would not, because he was so taken back, introverted.
He's going to open up to who he knows has his back.
Got it. His core group.
His core group.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think what your daughter went through, I think that is kind of what we're trying to do here. Big picture is you feel more comfortable with people that have experienced what you are going through.
And it's not just the experience, but how they got their mindset and why they do the things they do because you went through that similar training or that similar lifestyle. Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to go through the background.
Yeah.
It's so much easier when, all the minutia stuff is out of the way and you can get to the core.
And then you can also, because I'm sure she learned from the other people within that group, from them sharing, hey, this is like, I really hate it when there's a holiday, or this is what I do that helps me, or I always carry a photo of my dad or mom or anything. So I'm sure that being in that safe place where they all kind of, they're all understanding of each other and what they've been through, they're all, whether they recognize it or not, they're all learning from each other to better themselves and to, like you said, push forward.
It was definitely helpful for her because their methods were similar. They're going to, that's the circle. Yeah. So we all kind of went our separate ways to find the help we knew. I mean, we still talked about things and stuff, but we went different directions to find what we needed at the time.
Got it.
And that could change.
Mhm.
from day to day. It could
Yeah.
change what you needed. So we
Yeah.
were just kind of fluid. I talked to them about going to counseling. We did go to counseling as a group together. It was once, and they weren't, and it's like, that's fine. We don't
Yep.
have to then.
Yep.
As long as there's other avenues, because I was terrified. Not that they gave me an indication, but my husband didn't either, that they would look at down the road in their life that something was going to become so monumental that they thought that this was a way out, that this was acceptable, that this was an answer, an alternative. It panicked and just.
And you said panicked past tense. Is that today? How do you feel now?
I don't have the same worries. I mean, as a parent, you're always concerned. I don't care how old your kids are.
Yep.
Your mom worries.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. You always be careful, be careful. It's just, it's not forefront in my mind. I think about that aspect as much as I would think about a car accident or something else. It is just another thing that can happen, but it's not primary like it was. And part of the reason I was a helicopter parent was so worried about where they were, who they were with, what they were doing, because I was terrified that they would see this as a solution. And as a teenager or young adult, when you think problems are so monumental, that you can't get out, I scared the wits out of me.
And how long did it take for you to kind of get that to the back part of your brain where you weren't?
The last couple of years, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, seriously.
No, I know. I appreciate the honesty.
Through college, because I worried about, especially my daughter going away to college. She's
out of the country.
She's away out of state, and she doesn't she doesn't know people. She doesn't know the lay of the land. Where's her support system?
Mm-hmm. Her core group.
It's college.
She has to find a new core group,
or her core group is. She's going into nursing. Is she going to be overwhelmed by it? How's she going to do, this kind of thing? And so it's just been the last few years that things are good. And I know that there's no guarantees ever. And like I said, it sounds so contradictory. Things are good. Everything's going to be fine. Well, I thought things were good with my husband too. So it's present, but it's not a daily.
Okay.
It's only the last few years.
Yeah. And with all of the stress of going to college and new relationships, and have you talked to them, or have they talked to you, or expressed any feelings with added stress, or talked about like depression, or have any conversations come up between you three about topics such as depression or high anxiety, stress because of everything from Bill? And they know that there were no signs because they didn't see anything. Right. So
no one saw anything. That's the thing. Getting back just a little bit after all the investigations, nothing was found. Nothing. No letters. I checked computers. I literally waited with bated breath for a knock at the door, somebody telling me, a phone call, a letter, or something. So we have talked about it. Where we're going. So they're aware that things happen, but they're aware that there's options and no harm, no foul, and take the resources that are available. I don't have to know about them. You don't have to discuss it. It's personal. But just know that they're there and take advantage.
And they're both open to that, and you are comfortable in saying it in your mind that if they were to go through a tough time, because we're all humans, we all go through ups and downs, and we all go through it. And I can't, and I'm curious to talk to, like, if I were to talk to them about this, or we have yet to have the son or daughter of a first responder or veteran that has died by suicide. If she'd be willing to, I know
I think she would. But no,
We'll see. But
I talk to them openly about counseling or depression. If I'm having a bad day, I will say so. That this is not a good thing. But, and people have asked, not come right out and ask me, but insinuate. And it's like, I'm not embarrassed by what happened. I have nothing to be embarrassed about.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband doesn't either. There is something happened. And I can't even figure out what. Spur of the moments, whatever it was. But this is how he felt he had to deal with his problem. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Everyone's got something. So I'm very open with the kids. It's okay to show emotion. It's okay to get help. It's okay to have a release. It's okay to have a bad day. Just don't let them become the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And if they start to become the norm, that's when you need somebody to intervene. So, but no, not embarrassed, not ashamed. And they shouldn't be, nobody should be.
Do you think that survivors of suicide feel embarrassed, feel ashamed?
I think they can, and I think they can be made to feel that way with certain questions, like, why didn't you do anything to stop this? And I've had not that direct question, but sideways comments and questions, inferring that I was either indifferent or just not paying attention. But because mental illness isn't talked about. I had a family member actually say, not my family, the other side, what am I going to tell people? That they didn't want to say what happened. If somebody said, well, how did he die? What am I supposed to tell people? As if, and I thought, that's where your focus is. That's where your priority. That's what you're thinking. I'm like, that's part of the problem. It's like, tell them what happened.
Yeah.
This is the fallout. They're seeing the fallout of the action. And we did nothing to be embarrassed about. I don't know why there's that stigma. Yeah, I don't rush to the rooftops to shout it out to people. And I'll be little bit more delicate or cautious about what I say, depending on who I'm talking to.
Okay.
If I get a vibe that it's a curiosity thing more than a real concern, but shouldn't be embarrassed. But the whole stigma of mental health has this embarrassing quote unquote connotation to it. Don't ask, don't tell, don't want to, there's a fault. I'm not perfect.
Yeah. And no one is.
No, everybody's got something.
Yeah.
It's just to what degree, what level, and what you do with it.
Yeah. And you don't know what people are going through on a daily basis. Someone could be really having a bad day, but a reference that I use is people are wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
So they're wearing a mask to hide their emotions and what's really going on. And maybe they are really good at wearing that mask, where
some are better than others,
where you never see it, where a lot of the time we lose people to suicide, and it's like, he was the last person I would have.
No idea. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I heard
he was the last person I ever would have expected. We had no idea. He had everything. Why? I saw him the day before. And this is all stuff that I've heard.
You're saying everything that I heard and went through, because those are the comments. I mean, to this day, we still talk. I still talk. What happened?
Yeah.
What overnight? What did? Because we never got an answer.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was obsessed with finding out the why, and I finally let that go.
Okay. And how long did that take?
That was up until a few years ago.
Really?
I mean, it was a good 10 years that I figured, with every phone call, with every piece of mail, with every knock at the door, got that out of my head.
Yeah.
That somebody was going to come forward with something, that there was going to be something that would open up. But he apparently was
Yeah.
very good at keeping what he didn't want known, not known.
Okay. And at that time when you were,
Because being a dispatcher, you want to know what's going on. And
no, we're all nosy.
it was like a punishment. I
Yeah.
felt like a punishment
Mm.
of not knowing. And it just, what on earth could you not trust me with? That. And then I got to the point going, you know what? Even if I knew, I probably wouldn't understand. So just stop wondering.
And how did you come to that realization?
Just time.
Time.
It was so many years had gone by with nothing. And it finally was, if you knew, how would that change anything, or what would that do to you? And I thought it probably would open up scars and wounds, because whatever he thought was so insurmountable, I would not have, and would have been I would have been angry all over again.
Got it.
This is why. And then it was like, well, maybe there was no reason. Maybe it wasn't something that happened. Maybe just something uncontrollably snapped without, I don't know. So much speculation in my head. And that's what I had to, I realized I was going in circles with the question, and I was obsessing about it, and it was not healthy.
Okay. And it took how many years for you to?
Decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kids?
The kids, I think, resolved things faster than I did. But I never really asked.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have. I don't, should have, would have, could have, but it was like, that's private and that's personal, and I don't want to intrude.
Yep.
And they know I'm here. I mean, we were very open. We talk about a lot of things, but I try and respect if they have feelings or thoughts that should remain with themselves, not to break
Got
that.
it. Makes sense.
Like I said, everybody has to deal with things their own time frame and in their own way. And I didn't want to give the impression that I thought that they were doing it wrong, quote unquote.
Got it.
So
you made it clear to them that if they needed anything, you were there.
Yes.
But you weren't going to be intrusive.
I didn't want to push.
Okay. And then however they were feeling was normal.
Mm-hmm.
You're amazing.
Well, thank you.
You're
it was
incredible.
It was a village that got me here. Seriously. Yeah. No, friends, family. Anybody going through reach out, because there is somebody that, will help.
Yeah.
Like this organization. But
so for me, and there's a couple of police officers who worked at that organization that died by suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Did an episode with my dad, and he talked about one of them. And then he talked about another one who worked at another police department. I've lost one friend in the military to suicide, and I lost one friend to suicide in the police department. Both of them, 0 signs, nothing. And
your brain is going in thousands of directions.
Yeah. And
unscramble.
And you have so many questions. And then that's why I think suicide is the worst. It is the worst. I absolutely hate death in general.
Yeah.
Like I don't deal well with death. Like I try to step back, avoid it, not really talk much, and then just kind of put on like my own little mask and just say like, oh, this is life and this is what happens. But I freak out. Okay. With suicide, it's times 10.
There was a quote, I can't remember exactly, but it's something to the effect of, the one decision changes a lifetime, or you make one decision and things have a different outcome. It's very true. I mean, because suicide is not just that person.
Mm-hmm.
The fallout is monumental, and it never goes away. I'm 16 and a half years from what happened. it still hurts. I still cry. I still get upset. I still get mad. I yell at him. There'll be times I will yell. So it's not a solution. It just causes more problems.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that what you're doing is saving or helping your loved ones, your friends,
not being a burden.
If I'm not in the picture, things will get better. No, you have created more and more and more, and it will never end. It's not there's no solution to the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard this yesterday. It's like dropping a rock into a cup of water. Mm-hmm. The ripple effects, they go on and on and on. I am curious as to your opinion. I've heard this before, and I actually heard it this week, and it kind of struck me, where a Tiburon Police Department sergeant,
I saw that article,
died by suicide via gunshot wound in the locker room. We talked about this at work, and one of the gentlemen said that was really selfish to do it at the police department. Like, go somewhere else and do it.
I heard that same thing. There was a CHP officer that did it in his patrol car in the parking lot of the office several years ago. And I heard the same thing.
The selfish.
Yes.
Yeah.
There isn't logic involved in suicide, in my opinion. This is no professional here, just my opinion. Yeah. There isn't logic. And as much as the person may be thinking about what they're about to do, I don't think, unless it's very deliberate, unless it is an act directed at someone else, I'll show you kind of thing, which may seem, I don't think the person is trying to be selfish or trying to cause inconvenience to somebody else. Yeah. That's not where they're going. But there isn't logic involved. It's not an act that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the how they do it, but I think once they make the decision, for a lot, it's instantaneous. There isn't, okay, I'm going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And on this day, I'm going to go do this.
The plan.
The plan.
Yeah.
I think like my husband, that something happens instantaneous that can't be controlled, and you do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah. I'm sure that family doesn't want to hear that. Oh, how selfish. I mean, my heart went immediately to the family.
Yeah. And I sometimes on the Instagram story, I'll put stuff up where it's like post-traumatic stress means, or my healthy coping mechanism is, and then people can answer it and then repost it. And hopefully that resonates with one person when someone sees, oh, I like hiking. I go, okay, I'll go try hiking. Maybe that'll help one more person. A little while ago, I put up suicide is ... Selfish. I didn't even post all the selfish ones. The answers that I got were a majority of the time selfish. And there was no way I was going to post 4 or 5 selfish.
Yeah.
Because if someone in the audience that follows us on Instagram and sees suicide, selfish, and they're beating themselves up, they're going through a dark time.
Just one more thing.
That's going to make them even worse. They're just going to have an even harder time.
It's the first thing people think of, though, that they did something to themselves. So it's all about them.
Yep.
The act may be all about them, but whatever got them there has more to it.
Yeah.
I think I don't even know if there's a right word, because I don't want to insult, but there's not logic to it. It is something that for a lot, I think, overwhelms and takes over, and just, you do things without the repercussions. Somebody gets an adrenaline rush and is doing things that they never thought. And I think in some ways, the brain just goes to somewhere that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not the answer. It's just, just causes more issues.
Yeah. And it's the loved ones and the friends and the coworkers that it affects. And sometimes there's a ripple effect.
Yes.
With
their gut clusters.
Yep. And then it's, well, with the CHP, you mentioned 7 to 10 in
a year.
And I mean, I'm sure it's happened before in the past, and maybe more with our veteran community, where someone dies by suicide and they're like, oh my God, he did this. He couldn't deal with it. I tried to help him. And then it makes it more normal for their brain maybe. And then that thought comes into their head more, and then they die by suicide. So
if he couldn't handle it, how am I going to handle it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you look at some of these people, and I don't want to say overachievers, but they are very good at what they do. And if other people are expected to live up to that level and can't, and they feel, well, if that person could, and look at them and they couldn't handle it, who am I to think that I can? And no one should be measuring themselves to somebody else. That is also human nature. I mean,
you are your own person.
Yes.
And so something I kind of just thought about is with suicide, obviously, if the person is deceased, there's no way to ever be able to tell. We've already touched on that. You finally let the why go a decade later.
Yeah.
With those that have attempted suicide and the attempt was failed, and I'm just thinking out loud here, I literally just thought about this, so I don't have my words together. But if we can somehow get those people that have been in that place, that have made the attempt at suicide.
What was the turning point that?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm just giving So
there's a lot to think about it. But what is it that made you do more than think?
Yes. What made you? It's like the OODA loop, where you like orient, observe, decide, and act. Like you were contemplating this, and then what was the turning point? How were you feeling? What did people say? What did you think that made you act? Whether it was, however you whatever method you used for that act, that it may be, and it's a failed attempt. I think it would be very beneficial to have those people,
I think,
share and be like, here's exactly why.
Yeah.
And there was it's been kind of getting posted more on Instagram, of this survivor of jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And he talked about it, and he talked all about his depression leading up to it. And then he said, I stood on there. The moment my feet left the bridge, instantly regretted it. And he's like, I wish I could have taken a step back. And then he talked about the in the air and landing and everything. But I mean, I can only imagine if we had a first responder or a veteran who made a suicide attempt
that was unsuccessful. Yeah.
And now can speak about it. So we have Tim Lodgen. Tim Lodgen was in the Marine Corps. He's our talk ambassador, and he was at the fundraiser. He attempted suicide 3 times.
Yes.
One via hanging, and then pills, and he was addicted to alcohol, and he almost got divorced, and now he's doing exactly what I want more people to do. I wish more people would do. He's been on like 70 podcasts talking about it. We flew him out from Maryland to hear.
Yes. I remember hearing his story, and it was just like, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard because when he was talking, it was like was my husband thinking that way? Were these his thought?
Mhm.
It kind of was giving me an insight, but then again, it was like everybody's got a different story. I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. So and this is now another task that I will take on to add to the play.
Sure, because what else?
Yeah. But I think that would be really powerful, and it would be a good resource for people to have. So like we have our buddy program where
Mm-hmm.
people can go on the website, go to the buddy program, match with someone, read the bio, reach out to them directly,
Yeah.
totally between them. I think it would be amazing to have a person on there who attempted suicide, failed at that attempt, and now is willing to be a resource for
Mhm.
anybody who is considering that.
I think it would be amazing. That's probably a hard person to find,
Yeah.
but they're out. Maybe somebody listening.
Yeah.
Because yes, you need to hear the why is important.
Yeah.
For everybody else, the why is important. And where was that moment? And
Yeah.
and is there something that other people can get out of it?
Yes.
Is there a trigger that others would notice? Which should others have noticed it in you?
Yes. Or what is one thing that could have saved you from doing that?
What made you pursue it, but what would have stopped you?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I think that would be very, very helpful.
And I do remember a while ago, and this was
a big topic. There's a lot of directions.
Yeah. No, it is. And I know I could, I'm so passionate about this. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours.
People like me appreciate this.
Yeah.
There's an outlet.
Yeah, no, and that's obviously why we're here and what we want. And I remember, and this was before we started talk, of a story of a gentleman who talked about this, and he was like, I was going to take my own life if I walked from point A to point B downtown, wherever it was, and no one smiled at me or said hi or eye contact.
Kind of made a bet with himself.
Yes. And I think someone ended up smiling at him, and he was like, okay, not doing this.
Restored his faith.
Yes. I wasn't really going anywhere with that. I was just thinking the story, but
it's true. You don't know what can make the difference for somebody either way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what kind of a bad day somebody's having. And the idea of opening a door or saying hello or smiling can turn things around for somebody.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt. And you just don't know where you could go with that.
Yeah.
So don't take the opportunities that you can to just small gestures of a hello, a smile, because maybe that could be the difference for somebody that day.
Yeah. And you may never know if it saved a person's life by smiling at someone or saying, hey, good morning, have a good day.
So just tell yourself it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
I like it.
What's it hurt?
It doesn't at all.
Like I said, I tend to be a negative, pessimistic person. I'm trying to be more upbeat, and it's little things like that.
Yeah.
I'll just tell myself that there was a positive difference, and I'm going to go with that because there's nobody to correct me.
Yep.
So why not?
That's the PMA, positive mental attitude.
Oh, okay.
Having the mindset.
Okay. Technical terms.
It's a total.
You've been around a lot of people.
That's a total Mike Rogan move right there. Yeah.
Oh, Mikey.
I think something that we haven't really touched on, and I know you brought it up, were the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the local city.
Yes.
Sheriff's office.
Yes.
The California Highway Patrol.
DA's office.
And the DA's office.
Mm-hmm. Obviously the coroner's office, because they
So how was that process?
By me?
For you? And it wasn't like, for me, even like just saying that again and thinking, there were so many different types of investigations. Like, did that make it 4 times as hard on you? Like if it was just one big investigation and they all worked together, would that have made things easy?
I don't know if it would have made things better or easier. I know they were working in conjunction with each other. I think they were trying not to overlap. They were being very sensitive to me. So it was invasive, but it was necessary.
Got it.
And I don't fault anybody for what they had to do because everybody was looking for answers. And I appreciated the fact they were all looking for answers. And because I knew these people personally, I had been at weddings and birthday parties. I mean, it helped that they were sensitive to me. But it got me even more closed off to some degree. My life was an open book there for a while, everything about me. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, I closed down, and trust levels, very hard to come by. I have my friends, my family. I know who I can trust. I know who I can open up to, but it closed my openness for things. I just
got it.
Yeah.
And so kind of like what Daniel went through, where after he okay. So he really does take after you.
So I guess but yeah, it made me leery, and trust was not something that I come by nature. The job, I mean, questioned everything, but even more so. But no, the departments did a good job in their investigation and being very aware of me.
Okay.
So I appreciated them greatly for that.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because from a police officer point of view and thinking like a police officer, you have to rule out domestic violence.
We had to rule domestic finances, infidelity.
Yep. So that's where my mode goes into responding to it. You have to.
Oh no, we were asked about extramarital affairs, sex life, the finances. It sounds really silly, but I waited for people to show up at the door with kids going, guess what? I mean, my mind went in bad places thinking about the whys. And I think that was part of what I had to give up was this is not healthy for me. But no, as an officer, there's certain things you need to do, and it's hard to balance. I have to ask this very sensitive question, but I want to be respectful of how you're taking it. How do I phrase it so we both accomplish something?
Yeah. And do you think, as being a dispatcher and being in the field, that it helped and made it easier, especially for them? And the investigators having to go through that. I mean, imagine if you were not a first responder, say you were a teacher, and then you had to go through that. I could imagine it would have been more difficult.
It was, I think it definitely helped that I knew why the questions were being asked, where they were coming from with it. The fact that I knew some of the people, now some I didn't, but great enough I did. I knew what their intent was and where they were coming from with their questions. So yes, they didn't have to explain to me. I already got it. I didn't have to make notifications like that, but I had to make phone calls to people giving them bad news. Your kid's been arrested, that thing. You try and be sensitive, and they were. And I think that was a big part of why it worked for me.
Got it.
And the departments. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But no, I can see, and I never really thought about it until you said the officer stand, what they're thinking, their mind of how do I ask this without coming off like a dick, and being respectful of the situation, because you're asking questions right after, really quick, within minutes of things. So no, I'm not tactful like that. That's another reason I wasn't on your side of it. I had to be on my side of things.
And how long was until the investigation was done, no more of this? Was it months?
No,
Was it weeks?
It was
It
weeks.
was okay. So relatively,
it didn't drag on for months
okay.
and months that I recall. What went on behind the scenes, I have no idea. But
Yeah.
what involved me was over within weeks,
Okay.
fairly quickly.
Which I imagine is for you, the shorter time, the
Yes.
better, obviously.
Yes.
Okay.
I needed to not get back to like I needed to figure out. I needed the world to stop so I could catch up. What's my next step? How am I going to do this? I'm not working full time. Am I going to make it financially? Or my kid, the whole worry about my kid. So yes, they did what they had to do so that I could then go, okay, now what? And that was the big question. Now what?
Okay.
And fortunately, I was very fortunate that it all worked out where I had the security and I didn't have to, that financially was one worry I did not have, which was huge.
Yep.
Huge.
Yeah. And I've heard it a lot where if someone dies by suicide, the spouse does not get benefits. Are you aware of that?
I am aware of that.
So with that, I also
that was a big question.
Yes. So talking about this now and dying by suicide and funerals and finances, because a lot of the time we do hear he or she died by suicide, which means it's not a full funeral, which you already said there was a full, it was the line of duty.
Which I was overwhelmed by.
Yeah.
I didn't expect.
Yeah.
But that's what they wanted to do. And I was appreciative. It was out of respect for him. It was because of how he was looked upon in the department.
Which is amazing. I'm so glad that they did that. Because I've also heard a lot of the times where if someone dies by suicide, that doesn't happen.
Right.
The spouse doesn't get the retirement, the pension, doesn't get financial assistance. And I've also heard stories where on-duty deaths regarding potential solo vehicle collisions are a form of suicide.
They investigated as questionable, yeah.
Yeah. So will be essentially, so say you have an officer who's making a plan to die by suicide, but he or she wants the family to be well taken care of, and it's just like,
so they manipulate.
So they manipulate, and then it's a solo vehicle collision, which police officers get into a lot of collisions, and which could be taken as like undetermined cause for the vehicle collision, unknown, but deceased, family gets the money, the full funeral. But in reality, it's a suicide.
Everybody's kind of got a wink kind of thing about it, but it can't be technically proven enough to disqualify. I fortunately, and I don't know, it was explained to me at the time, and I'm sure I could go back. Something had just been ratified with the Highway Patrol starting that fiscal year 11 days before that qualified me for his retirement benefits.
Okay.
So I have what he would have had he retired out on a service.
Got it. Or passed away in the line of duty.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
11 days before.
Yes. That's what I was told.
Wow.
So I don't think that has anything to do with it. I don't think he was planning this and go, okay, let's make sure this kicks in.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think there was logic involved. Okay. I just happened to, as crappy as the situation it is, I'm better off than so many other people, like you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And people would say that to me. They would say, oh my God, what you've been through is terrible and try. Yes, it is. But other people have also gone through horrible things. Things could have been worse for me.
Yeah.
I might not have had the financial security.
Yeah.
I've known of people whose spouses, and they've had 4 and 5-year-olds, newborns. They're expecting kids who will never, they don't have the support of the department or their family. And I thought, you know what? And I tell myself this all the time, as bad as my situation is, it could be worse.
Worse.
So don't focus on that. focus on the fact that you figured it out, and we figured it out for the kids too. So yeah, no, it could be worse. Everything could be worse.
Yeah.
As crappy as it is.
Yeah.
It is.
And I mean, thankfully, like you're in a position where you don't have to work.
I don't.
Because you have
I don't. I've done part-time things between, but that's more of enjoyment, hobbies. I had 3 jobs fall into my lap. I was very fortunate.
What were those 3 jobs?
One of them was a school district.
Okay. What'd you do specifically?
Oh, I did a whole bunch of stuff. I worked on standardized testings. I was a what they call a classified sub. So I subbed for everything outside the classroom. So like school secretary and stuff.
Oh, got it.
Things like that. I worked for an insurance company, but I did mostly like past due bill payment, bill collecting and things. Worked retail. I did things just,
not because you needed to,
no, but
just to.
It was good for me to get out, or it was enjoyable, or I was working. When I worked insurance, I worked for a guy. He called me up out of the blue. I went to middle school and high school with him, and my daughter worked for him at one point. So, I mean, he's actually the guy that walked my daughter down the aisle. So, but so that kind of thing, because the idea of me going in for a job interview and them say, "Oh, so tell us about yourself." Yeah, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening.
Nope. Nope.
So I was fortunate, but things to get me out of the house or keep me occupied or things I was enjoyed. So that's what I recommend to people. Find things.
Yeah.
If you're going, whatever floats your boat, whatever's going to get your mind out of reality for a few hours or 5 minutes or whatever it is, find it.
Yep. Find it and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference.
And let's see, I was just gonna.
Sorry.
No. You're good. Yeah, you're good.
Chopped up.
No, you're good. You mentioned walking down the aisle. Okay, so.
Oh, the events.
The events.
The time.
So, as losing a loved one to a natural death, as I stated before, I hate death.
Yes.
The first birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, anniversary, anything, any special date, 10-15.
The worst one is our wedding anniversary.
Okay.
That's the hardest one.
Yeah. And has it gotten better throughout the years, or do you explain it?
It has gotten better throughout the years, but for a very different reason than most people would think.
Okay.
Couple months after my husband died, I wanted dogs. I'm like, I need heartbeats in the house.
Yeah.
The kids are getting older. One of them's going to be gone in a few months off to college. I'm still a nurturer. I need something to take care of. So I ended up getting 2 dogs. I don't recommend getting 2 dogs at the same time. But I got 2 dogs, 2 completely different breeds, everything. But one of the dogs, he was born on the first anniversary after I lost my husband. So I lost him in July. We were married in October. Dog was born October 15th that year. And that dog came to me in a very convoluted way. And I found this dog and I'm like, so since then I have tried to focus on Bear's birthday. And I still have Bear. Bear is 16 now. Bear is an old dog.
16.
He is 16. He's trying to age gracefully, and some days he succeeds.
Yeah.
But I focus, or I try to, on him. It's still a reminder and a day, but I just put my focus somewhere else. But the holidays are hard, but that's to be expected. Our wedding anniversary, and the other hard one, and people kind of go, is Father's Day.
Yeah.
My dad's gone. My husband's gone. There is no Father's Day in our family.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have, it's hard to have holidays that everybody else is celebrating and you're out.
Yeah.
You're not, and I know that there are people that don't have holiday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever it is. But when you've had it and it's taken away from you, so it's the minor holidays that, birthdays, and things, but Father's Days, not one that people expect.
I did not expect that. My first one was Thanksgiving, and maybe that's just because we had Thanksgiving, and I know that you were together with the kids and you were happy, and which I'm so glad. And I saw pictures, I saw some videos, and it looked
Christmas, Thanksgiving,
amazing.
there,
Yeah, everything together.
because it was the first time we had been together in 3 years and the first holiday in 4 years.
Yeah, which is huge.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
Yeah, my first Thanksgiving, I went to Oregon to spend it with family, and we went out shopping the day after Christmas, and I heard bells. And from the movie It's a Wonderful Life, when you hear a bell ring, an angel gets its wings. I heard bells. I went running out of that store as fast as I could. I had to get away from it.
Yeah,
it was awful. And still, still little things.
And those little things, I would call them triggers.
Triggers, yes, they are.
So you still have?
Oh, yes.
To this day.
To this day. They're not every day, and they don't last as long as they used to. But they're still there.
Okay.
Because he's still my husband.
Yeah.
I still miss him. I still love him. I still,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And with those triggers, you said that they still happen. You don't know when they're going to happen.
Nope.
And something can trigger you, and sometimes they probably vary in time of how long one affects you in a different. What do you do that helps you with that trigger?
I usually do one of the two things. I will change. If it's a song on the radio, I change the channel. If it's I will walk, I will distance myself. I will be at an event, something will trigger, and you'll find that I've walked away or left the room or something like that. And other times, it depends on the moment, depends on the trigger. Other times I just let them happen. It's part of the grieving process. You can't skip the steps. You can't ignore the steps. You can't decide when the steps are going to happen. And so I let it happen, and I kind of just allow the moment, and then it's gone. It's like having a craving for food. Unless you take care of it, you're going to have that craving. It's going to go on all day into the next day.
Yeah.
So I let the moment happen so it doesn't take over.
Mm.
And it varies. I mean, it depends on the moment, the trigger, and what I'm able to do with it.
Yeah.
But
I never would have thought that, to just let that moment happen.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe the more common one would be, nope, radio off.
Right. Well, I didn't listen to music for a long, long time because every song was a trigger. So years I was on talk radio. But you have to let it happen. It's the emotion's not going to go away. You're just burying it until later.
Yeah.
And maybe later's not a better time. And maybe if you bury too many of them, they build up to too big, as opposed to handling them when they're small. Handle them when they're manageable. Don't allow them to get so big and overwhelming that it's like you're in quicksand and you can't move.
Yeah.
So let them happen.
And
don't apologize for them. It's okay.
Yeah. Cause it's normal.
It's normal.
And was this by trial by error?
Yeah. I was very much what worked for me in the moment. If somebody said, hey, let's go to coffee, and coffee worked in the moment, I went to coffee. And the next time they called, it didn't work. I said no. So I did what felt good at the time.
Okay.
And that kind of evolved into letting my emotions tell me where I needed to be. Do I need to be solitary? Do I need to be with people? Do I need to cry? Do I need to laugh? What is my body and my mind saying I need at this moment? And that's kind of what I did with the triggers.
Okay.
There are times where it's good to just let it out and get it over with. And then move on.
Yeah.
And you find sometimes that the triggers are less intense. They may be just as often, but maybe they're not as intense.
Got it.
And you can get through this one in a minute or two. I mean, sometimes they don't last very long. It's just a twinge, and then it's gone.
Mm.
But don't ignore it. It's part of the process. It's not going to go away.
Yeah. And I I think that, and I'm so proud of you for being able to do that, because I don't know if I would be that way.
You do what you have to do when
true.
when it's necessary.
Yeah. And I think allowing you to go with that trigger and to let it pass could be seen as weak.
It could be, but
amongst others.
Yes.
And that's where I think about the triggers. And if you're out with friends or at coffee or at a concert, at an event where something triggers you, where you know what you need to do, you need to create some distance to step away from the situation. But if you do that and then you explain why, it might make you look weak.
It could, if you have the right friends,
the core group,
to support you. And if they don't understand, that's too bad. That's their problem, not yours. You're having an emotion. Emotions are part of being a human being. You should not be embarrassed. If you laugh till you pee yourself, are you embarrassed by that? Maybe a little bit, but you're laughing. If you're happy, are you embarrassed by that? I mean, if you're sad, you're sad.
Yeah.
And something made you sad at that moment. And, I think it's okay. You just don't want it to become the norm. This is where you live, but allow your emotions to come out and then move on from that.
Some good advice.
Thank you. It works for me. I mean,
Yeah. And it might work for someone else. It might not.
So. And that's the thing.
And that's,
if what's working for you right now isn't working, try something else. Don't dismiss this because it could work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or it could work later on. You got to have a lot of tricks in your pocket. You got to have, a lot of options. Options are a good thing.
Options are a good thing.
Options are a good thing. Outlets, friends, options. And like I said, find something that takes you out of reality for a little while. I don't care if it's cooking, riding a bike, running, gardening, whatever it is. Just find something that that lets your mind rest. Your mind needs to rest other than when you're sleeping. It needs a break. Allow yourself a break. Every day, everybody should allow themselves a break.
Yeah, I agree.
Just
I agree.
5-10 minutes. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
But just let your mind step back from you.
I love it.
Sometimes you can reevaluate and you go, oh yeah, okay, not so bad. And then you go forward. And then other things you go, not doing that again.
Yeah. Good. Well, the last question was, how are you holding up?
I think.
How are you?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah, you're okay?
I do. I think for the most part, I mean, there's things about everybody has something that they would change about themselves. So I put myself into that category. Yes, there are things I would change about myself, but realistically, I think I'm okay. COVID has kind of put a damper on, trying to be normal.
Yeah.
But my kids are good. I'm good. I don't have a lot of worry. I don't have the worries a lot of people do. So I'm very grateful for that. Yeah. So no, for the most part, I think I'm in an okay place. And I used to say this when people ask me, how are you doing? I would say, okay. Okay works. It's not a bad place to be. So maybe better than okay. Some days really good.
Good. And how do you feel doing the podcast? How was this as we start to wrap it up?
I have to say, initially, never in doubt that I was going to do it or behind it as support. But the idea of talking about all this, I didn't know where it was going to go. So I was nervous.
Yeah.
But I would do this again in a heartbeat. Very easy. You have made this very comfortable, very easy process. It's two people talking,
yep,
which I really like that approach. And if this makes a difference for anybody, then mission accomplished. I just don't want to see or hope that no one else ever has to go through this. It is a crappy club to be in. And I'm just hoping there's one less person.
Yep. I don't even have to ask you to say what one more is one less means to you. That was
one more and one less. It's you kind of, I don't know, somehow you got in my brain all these years ago of what needs to happen. And this is kind of what needs to happen is people talking, getting the word out, being open, giving people a forum to be open. One more is one less. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. I did an Instagram story before this, and I went to go walk the dog, and obviously after getting coffee, I was thinking about everything, and now it's like obviously when we have people on, we're kind of a part of that, asking the questions and having a real conversation, which is
we don't know where to go sometimes.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
And a lot of people that come on do say we'll be done and we'll be like, how you feeling? Are you okay? Do you need anything? Because we understand that talking about it could bring up some concerns or some questions or something could be a trigger or
I was convinced I was just going to fall apart. And I'm like, I didn't.
Yeah.
Because of the way you approached it. So thank you for that.
Of course. Try to make it as and that's for all of our guests. We try to make this as smooth of a process. Ask questions. Are you comfortable? Do you need anything? If you need a break, let me know, because this shit's not easy. Everything that we're doing, that we have our guests come on and talk about, the attempts of suicide or the big macho military guys saying, I was messed up. I didn't know what to do. It takes a lot.
It does. There's, because I have listened to a few and people, but so proud that they're like, okay, what's important here? You know, big picture, my comfort level or the message.
Yeah.
And I had decided that my comfort level was nothing compared to how big the message was. So, and now I'm like, what was I worried about?
I'm glad
walking away with why was I concerned about?
And I'm so glad that that's the outcome of this.
And takeaway is
thumbs
up. Let's hope that as wonderful as this organization is, the hope is that someday it's never needed, that everyone has the help they need. They're getting the help they need. And there's nobody out there that is suffering or has a lack of, or feels like they don't have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So thanks for being a place to go.
Of course. That makes me so so happy, and I love it. And that's the ultimate goal for T.O.C, is to have a resource for everybody in our community. I mean, we eventually want a group of survivors of suicide. Boom. First responder, veteran in a group, law enforcement officers in a group just of law enforcement officers, firefighters, service members.
There's a trust.
Therapists. There's everything. And then confidentiality. Accessibility and confidentiality, in my opinion, are the biggest things for our community.
I'm sure you get a lot of questions when people are first approaching you or first coming to somebody, one of the buddies, about the confidentiality. Who knows about this? If you're asked about what, that's a huge concern. There's such a stigma. And like we said earlier, this is people's livelihoods. And yes, if there's a reason that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, find out. But if they can get the help to continue doing what they're doing. Because that's the person you want out there, is the one that asks for help too.
Yeah, and that sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. So I'm like, okay, let's try to make it as easy as possible for someone to take that big step, but also be like, hey, if I go reach out to talk, all I have to do is fill out a form, write a 1-page paragraph or 1-page piece of paper of why, like who I am, why I would benefit from this
first place.
Yeah, just so we kind of get an understanding, and then you sign a contract, and then we connect you to a therapist, and then we pay for it. The financial aspect is out.
We didn't go.
The confidentiality is out.
There's no insurance.
So like this,
needs to be notified.
You don't need to go through your insurance.
Nope.
You don't need to go through your employment assistance program, your military unit. You don't need to tell your patrol supervisor, your battalion chief, your captain, your team leader, squad leader, whatever it may be. So like the law enforcement officer that we just got connected, going to see a therapist next week. I told this person today, I'm like, there are 6 people that know you are asking for help and you're not going to pay a dime.
And one of them's me and one of them's the therapist. You know,
it's the board of directors.
Yeah.
And the therapist.
Do you guys?
No. Go ahead.
No, I was just,
people might ask.
I was just wondering if somebody submits.
Yes.
Do you review things based on what therapy or situation you feel would be more beneficial to them, or what the board of directors knows for what reason, I guess was my question.
Yeah. So as of now, we have 2 therapists that we contract with in the state of California that can see anybody in the state of California. That's their licenses for California.
Okay.
We're working on another one in, I think it's Indiana. And the goal is to have a contracted therapist in all 50 states. So if someone reaches out to us from New York, we can be like, perfect, this is our contracted therapist in New York. Her name's Donna. We'll connect you. Just fill out these 2 forms first, and they fax over the forms, email the forms, whatever. We have a contract, and then it's like, okay, cool. We've already talked to Donna. You guys figure out your schedule an appointment, and nobody has to know. As of now, what we're doing, if someone reaches out for financial assistance or therapy or questions, the first step is referring them to the buddy program.
Okay.
So there's the 29 people that have all offered to put a photo of them, the email address, and a bio of them, and all be available. And do we have a 30th person?
If you'd like a 30th person,
we would love to have you.
Be honored to help.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. So now I stand corrected. Now we have 30 people. So then no, you're good. So essentially now with the 30 people, someone can go on, and so now that we'll get you on there, it's essentially if a spouse or significant other of a first responder or veteran has lost someone to suicide, they can go to the buddy program, scroll down, read bio, and see you. And like,
that's the one I connect with.
Okay, I'm sending her an email right now. And then you would get an email from someone and be like, hey, I'm just reaching out for help. And cool, you can talk via email. You can swap telephone numbers.
Whatever works for the 2 of you.
Whatever works. So we have people on our buddy program that they do bi-weekly check-ins. We have people that do monthly coffee dates.
Okay.
And that's their check-in.
Yeah.
But they don't.
But
that's kind of the first step.
It's between the 2 of them.
Between the 2 of them. And it's someone that understands that they're in the same profession.
Yeah.
So they've been on the same calls. They know what they're going through. And nobody else knows. So it's literally just them. So that's the first kind of step. So we always tell people to go to the buddy program, see if they can match with someone and get help that way. And if not, no pressure.
Right. Because sometimes that's what you need is just an ear, a listen, somebody,
someone that understands, and someone to talk.
To check in with is a good way to put it.
Yeah,
it's true. Just having that. Hey, I'm here, and you're going to tell me, right? And go. Yeah. I like that idea.
So that's the first step, and then the second is if you need to go see a therapist, we'll have you sign a contract with us.
Mhm.
That's very simple. And then we'll have you submit that one page, who you are, why you would benefit from therapy, what profession, what's going on. And then we'll connect you to
And kind
a
of give the
therapist.
therapist a heads up. Hey, we
Yep.
got this person, and this is
Yep.
what they're.
Yep. And then all the therapists that we have, when we first do the contract with them, we have them on one of our meetings. When we do the board of directors meeting, we try to do it bi-monthly, and we have them come on, and everybody on the board gets to know that therapist, and then we have it set in stone. Like we all need to be on the same page here. When people reach out, this is the process.
Yeah.
And then we have our secretaries coordinates with them and emails the people and says, hey, can you fill out this form and get it back to me? Boom, got the form. Now I'm going to email it to Dina or Destiny or Tony. So that's kind of the process.
You've also streamlined things, because for people to do this on their own, okay, let me look at my insurance and see what it covers, and let me see what it needs to, and then let me see if I can find
It could be months.
Who's taking new patients
Yep.
and finding the connection. And,
Yep.
and meanwhile, they're getting frustrated with
Yep.
this process. So it's just another
Yeah.
layer of,
Yep.
on their plate that they don't need at the
Yep.
time.
And some people might need a session right away.
Yeah.
And for a while, Kaiser, because my department, a lot of departments contract with Kaiser. So if you go through the employment assistance program, you get 5 to 7 sessions paid for through Kaiser, who they're not first responder therapists or veteran therapists. So you have to deal with that kind of aspect. But there was a period of time where Kaiser was on strike. I don't know if you're. Yeah. During that time, we had another law enforcement officer in the state of California reach out and say, I'm gaining weight like crazy. I'm depressed like I've never been. Kaiser's on strike. I can't get an appointment. And I was like,
I need help. I'm reaching
Yep.
out. Yeah.
And I was like, I understand. That's frustrating. Sign this contract, fill out this one page, and I'll connect you to a therapist tonight.
Yeah.
We had an appointment scheduled within 20 hours.
Yeah. And that's when people are reaching out, it's not at the beginning. It's after they've tried their own way.
To push it back.
I'll deal with it later. Or reached out and was so frustrated with the process that they gave up, and it was like, oh, it's no big deal. I'll just deal with it. But yeah. So when somebody finally connects, you're not the point of last resort, but they're getting close to not knowing where else to go.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then the goal is that we eventually get to the point where we have so many testimonies and we have so many positive stories and we paid for so many therapy sessions, and we can have the people that have used us as a resource to pay for therapy and go to therapy, to whether it's do a voice memo, no face, no name, anything, change the voice if we need to, but just get it out there in the community that like this works. Like this is what I did.
Advocate your testimony.
Yes,
exactly.
I
tried this, and it's really what they say. It's not a bunch of BS. They can go have my back and tell my department.
And that's what we want. We ultimately
did what they said.
Someone, obviously we don't want someone in the first responder community to be struggling, but let's be real. We want someone that is
out there.
We want someone that is struggling to come to us, to be connected with a therapist, to enjoy that time with that therapist because they understand and they work with fellow first responders, to not be a financial burden, to conduct 10, 15, however many sessions it takes to be in a better place, to go back to work, or while you're still working, you're going through all these, but you're improving to get to a point where you're like, maybe I don't need weekly sessions. I need 1 month, one session a month.
You kind of wean.
Yes. Cause you know what to do and you know everything. And then it's like 6 months, whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, you've improved greatly because of the therapy through talk and everything. And then you continue on your career happy.
Yes.
And you don't ever have to go tell a sergeant or a fellow officer or
It's your own personal
The
business.
captains don't
Yeah.
need to find out. And then when you go to apply for a specialty position, they know that you went through a mental health time. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And whatever they're taking out of it, chances are, either intentionally or not intentionally, they're either seeing something in a coworker or directing a coworker or saying something that changes a path for a coworker because they've learned the tools. It's learning the tools and the triggers and what to do when the triggers happen. And if you can get that under control to some degree, it's huge.
Game changer.
And then you just do those check-ins.
Yep.
But yeah, it can expand. You're not just, because I don't think you're just helping the person that's going to the therapy. I think you guys are literally helping, I don't want to call it fallout, but fallout from that person.
Yeah.
Because they are saying and doing things differently that others are picking up on. And I think it's a positive. So I think you're affecting people that you don't even realize.
Yeah. I would like to, I like it.
I'm thinking you are. So let's just go with that.
Yes. Yeah. I know sometimes I get too hard on myself, but I appreciate it.
It's hard to take compliments. I don't do it well. I think it's a natural thing that we don't accept our own.
Yeah. Because I don't want any praise. I don't want.
Well, you're going to get it. That's
I don't care. I don't need any of it. The board of directors, Jesse, no one needs any of it.
That's not why. Well, that's part of it, is that you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not doing it to make a name for yourself and, oh, look at me.
Yeah.
You're doing it under the radar, so to speak, except for getting the word out that this isn't about us. It's about the issue, the problems. It's about the people who need help.
Yeah.
That's where the focus needs to be. That's where you're putting it. And you're doing a great
job. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for coming to the second annual fundraiser.
Which was a blast. My friend Nina already wants to come with me. She says, I'll be your +1.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Good. I absolutely love it. I know next year, hopefully we'll have a bigger venue and we can have like 400, 500 people. It was amazing.
It was not, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I walked in with a lot of, okay, this is going to be tough.
Yes.
And there were moments, and your mom could read my face because she was there when I was having one of those moments. But thank you, Donna. But it was a great night because it got the message out, but it got it out in a way that nobody was like, it was a comfortable, relaxed. There were people laughing and smiling and joking and having a good time about a serious topic. Mm-hmm. So that's a hard thing to accomplish. So job well done.
Thank you. It was a collective effort.
Yeah, I understand.
That's what you like to say.
I
my favorite thing to say.
I like to say I heard there was a few people that were a little bit more involved in it coming out the way it did. So kudos to those people. Yeah,
it worked out very well. So
no, I'm looking forward to the next one.
I am too. I know we're going to start planning it in our January board of directors meeting for end of 2023. So
okay, well,
it's just another thing to start planning.
Yeah, because the time goes by fast.
It does. Well, I appreciate you again. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. It was, I don't want to say happy to be here, but I am happy to help in any way I can. And
you are doing so.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
This all started off by chance meeting in March.
Yes.
Mom gave you your business card.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, okay. So
thank
you, Donna.
Yep. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Mom, again.
Yeah. So as you know, Donna will be joining the buddy program. Yeah. So when we get her up on the buddy program, I'll put it up on the social media, take a picture of it. Everybody will be notified. And then if you are listening to this and if you have any questions for you, are
absolutely
you open?
I am open.
Okay.
This is a place to be open, and I'm all in. It wouldn't have been here if I wasn't.
Love it. I appreciate it. So you heard it straight from her. If you need anything, if you're a spouse, significant other, and you're anything that you need, this is the amazing part about our community. Everybody is here for the right reason and just wants to help.
Yes, absolutely.
So
no judgments.
try to reduce the number of suicides, try to normalize mental health, make it easy for our community to reach out, make it confidential so we can really make some change. So
absolutely.
Anything else?
Merry Christmas.
Good. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
I know it's
and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy safe New Year and safe
Happy
holidays for everyone.
Safe New Year. All right. That is it. That wraps up the first episode of season 4.
Thank you.
Woo.